Hi guys, welcome to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. Remember, it's actually, if you've never been on here with me before, this is an interactive news conversation. So long story short, we're streaming also on social media channels. We're live right now on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, I believe also Instagram as well. So if you have a question for me, for any of our reporters, for our assignment desk, which I'm sure you will, if you have comments as well, you can hit us up in our live comment section. I'll be reading those, and you may be able to make an appearance right here on our live stream in the form of your comment. So again, I just wanted to let you know that that's what we are doing right here. We'll be talking about some of the biggest headlines around Georgia and around the world and how they pertain to us. And I want to start with our assignment editing team. So we're going to reach out to our manager. Long story short, there are a lot of things happening all around Georgia. She'll be able to talk us through some of our biggest headlines and stories of the day. Tanya Mendoza, welcome on in. First of all, what are we looking at for the day?
All right, thanks, Judea. Well, I want to mention real quick, 48 minutes ago, the DeKalb County Police Department tweeted out that students not participate in senior skip day that is at Wade Walker Park because I guess there's a rumor of some sort of park takeover for senior skip day that they were alerted to. There you go. You see the flyer right there. So students are asked not to go there because they will be enforcing truancy laws and will face punishment. So that's what they have alerted the public to, and we are covering that right now. We have our photographer, Billy Heath, out in the area. He's going to check it out, and if it is anything worth putting on the air, he's going to call us and let you know about that as soon as he gets out there. So that's what we're starting out with. And you were talking about this being an interactive show. People can sound off about this topic. It's been a lot. It's been in the news a lot lately. You know, the one over at the Battery took place, and Cobb County officials were out in full force and have arrested people, adults and teens in that case. And some people are even facing riot charges. So that's a big topic. We've had some here in the city of Atlanta as well. And now this one, which DeKalb County Police have alerted us to today. People can put in the chat their comments, and I'm sure our team will be looking at them and responding.
For sure. What else are you guys working on today?
Judea, it was a busy night overnight. One of our reporters, Caitlin Pratt, went over to the Cheshire Bridge Road area. Well, actually, let me start out with, that story right there. There was a fatal pedestrian accident around 2:48 a.m. Our assignment desk was alerted about this police activity out there. She went out there. The Atlanta Police Department did confirm that Grady EMS pronounced a male deceased on the scene after a fatal pedestrian accident, and that the other driver in the case did stay on the scene and was cooperative. So that was happening in the overnight hours. Caitlin Pratt covered that, and we're going to follow up to see if there's any updates on that story. I want to mention Cheshire Bridge Road again because our chief photographer, Chris Francis, within I would say the last hour, was driving on Cheshire Bridge Road around Lindbergh Drive, and he spotted out a water main break. So if we have the video from Chris Francis of the water main break, we'll put it up in a second. But that's happening right now. It's affecting traffic. So I just want to give people an alert about that. There you go. And we have reached out to the watershed department. Assignment editor Sasha Stevens is right next to me, and she's making phone calls and sending out emails to see what information she can get on that, so the public in the area can avoid it if necessary. But in the video, it looks like the cars are driving by easily. So I don't know if it may not be as big as I thought, but there you go. You have it right there. You're looking at the video.
Yeah, actually, Tanya, I saw this when it was happening live. I was helping produce the 11 a.m. Crazy scene. As you did mention, though, it does look like the cars are coming through. But just to think that a couple of hours earlier, if you were trying to get to work and you had to take Cheshire Bridge Road, there was no way you were getting through.
That's right. So busy for them today on Cheshire Bridge Road. And as you know, we're not too far from that area. We drive it to and from work all the time. So we kind of are always there quickly when news happens in that area.
Got
I
it.
do want to mention a story that Doug Evans is working on, and this is in Peachtree City. Okay, so he was He's working on this story. It appears that two women were arrested after a snatch and run robbery at the Lululemon store in Peachtree City. He's talking to Peachtree City police about this, and it sounds like there was some sort of snatch and run robbery, which then resulted in some sort of chase. He will have the surveillance video, the chase video, and more on this. And this is why it's important, because police believe the suspects are connected to similar robberies across metro Atlanta. And this isn't limited to just Lululemon stores. Sounds like some other stores may be involved. So Doug Evans will have the latest on that story. Judea?
Tanya, it seems like Doug Evans somehow is always able to get the craziest robbery, surveillance footage, whatever it is from police. So I have to say excited to see it, but also wondering what's going to happen next and whether they've made any arrests. Obviously, they're still looking for some people with this case. Tanya, as much as I want to keep talking about some of the bigger things that we are going to cover later on today, I do need to get out to one of our reporters with Fox News. You guys, we have for sure been keeping you up to date with everything that's happening out in the Middle East. We know that earlier this morning there were some attacks on some cargo ships, and obviously that has escalated. Before we talk about that and how it could potentially impact our gas, Rebecca Castor's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Rebecca, I heard some breaking news as it pertains to Iran and the World Cup. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, Judea, this was just announced. Iran's sports minister just said on state TV that they will not be participating in the World Cup. He said, quote, considering this corrupt regime has assassinated our leader, under no circumstances can we participate. They were set to play games in Los Angeles and Seattle. So they say they're out. What this means going forward for the tournament, we'll have to find out.
For sure. I mean, we're getting excited here in Atlanta. I know a lot of other cities are getting excited as well. A lot of soccer fans are expecting to see some good soccer being played. Of course, this will play a role. But even bigger than that, I want to talk to you about gas prices. As I did mention, those cargo ships had been targeted earlier today. So emergency oil. I heard that some of the countries, they're banding together in some sort of coalition. Maybe you can talk to me a little more about that. What are they planning to do? And then what does that mean for us?
Yeah, so this group of countries announced this morning that up to 400 million barrels of oil from emergency stockpiles will be released. This is a historic move by the International Energy Agency. 32 countries are a part of this, including the United States. So this should bring relief to the markets while the Iranians have the Strait of Hormuz in a chokehold. It's expected to stabilize prices, keep them from soaring higher at the gas pump. But oil experts say it's only a temporary solution, and more important, that regular shipping can resume in the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think that helps us make better sense of what is happening here. Now, I am reading and keeping up to date with some of the biggest updates, so bear with me. We do know over the last 24 hours, of course, we have seen those strikes on multiple Iranian vessels near the Strait of Hormuz, as you were just talking about. That includes 16 ships. So U.S. Central Command, they now have this new warning for civilians in Iran as the regime continues to threaten the international shipping. What can you tell us about that part of it, everything?
Yeah, this is important. U.S. Central Command says the regime is now targeting civilian ports along the Strait of Hormuz to launch their attacks on shipping boats. Defense officials say this now makes those civilian ports legitimate military targets. So CENTCOM is warning all civilian Iranian dock workers, administrative personnel, commercial vessel crew members to immediately avoid all port facilities where Iranian forces are operating.
And so while all that's happening, on our side, the U.S. defense, they say that Iran's ability to respond has actually dramatically decreased. Of course, we are still seeing these retaliatory attacks. So do we know what they are targeting now and how often they seem to be making these attacks?
Yeah. An Iranian military spokesperson actually said this morning they're now targeting U.S. and Israeli banks in the region. They specifically said that civilians should not go within a half mile of these banks. We've already seen Citigroup is evacuating offices in Dubai, and HSBC closed all branches in Qatar until further notice.
Okay, and then last but not least, obviously all of this began when Iran's supreme leader had been targeted, and eventually we found out that he had been killed. Now there's a new supreme leader. I understand that to be his son. So we haven't been seeing him lately, though, haven't been hearing too many things about him. What are you hearing about where he's at and what he might be doing?
So, Judea, we have numerous reports that he is in the hospital after being seriously injured in the Israeli strike that killed his father, wife, and teenage son. An Iranian ambassador said he's actually lucky to be alive, and this is why we haven't seen the new supreme leader address his country publicly yet. But they tell us that he is still working behind the scenes.
Okay. All right, you guys, this has been Rebecca Castergan reporting for us live from Washington, D.C. She's been keeping us up to date every single day of what's going on with this ongoing attack with Iran. So, Rebecca, thank you for your time here in Atlanta. But I do want to keep the ball rolling. I mean, we just talked about those attacks on the cargo ships, how that could potentially affect our pockets because it does directly impact oil and gas. So, us here in the U.S., especially us here in Georgia, we have been seeing gas prices skyrocket. Apparently, we're seeing the highest levels since 2024. So today, the AAA is already quoting the national price of regular gas at $3.57. I literally got that number for you right before I came on here. Georgia's trailing not too far behind that national average at $3.41. Now, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told the press that this conflict in Iran will likely be over pretty soon, and that should mean that gas prices should return normally pretty soon. But I want to be realistic and bring in a wealth expert here, Justin Farmer from Exit Wealth. He's the CEO. Justin, it's kind of hard hearing the White House be so open-minded and optimistic about what's happening here, but then we look at the market. So let me ask you to weigh in. Are we seeing that same light at the end of the tunnel if we look at what the market is showing us?
Good afternoon, Judea. Well, yeah, it's painful, isn't it? Atlanta gas price is sitting at about $3.44 a gallon right now, up more than 60 cents in just a couple of weeks. If you've had to fill up in the last couple of days, it's a big ouch, isn't it? And for businesses, we're now at $5 a gallon for diesel. As you know, a lot of business fleet vehicles use diesel, so they're really taking it on the chin. So in terms of, is it fair to be optimistic? Well, let's just go back to Judea. Before the conflict got started, oil was at about $60 a barrel. And then the conflict started and we zoomed right up to $90 a barrel. So I think we can be cautiously optimistic that if the Strait of Hormuz gets under control and has less conflict, and yesterday the U.S. Navy took out 16 mining ships of the Iranians, potentially setting mines in the Strait, targeting cargo ships. If all of this kind of activity and the conflict subsides, oil experts I listen to, Judea, do believe that there will be a quick correction in gas prices, and we would slide right back down about 60 cents a gallon within 2 weeks.
Justin, when you said quick, how quick is quick? Are we talking days, weeks? I know this won't be exact, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There is a bit of a delay, but oil trades around the globe as a commodity. And so even if you're in an oil producing nation, you're all subject to the commodity prices and the volatility of those commodity prices. Specifically, as it relates to your question, for the typical Atlantan, the typical Georgian, if the stabilization comes to the Middle Eastern region, the commodity of oil should come down significantly. And you're talking about within about a 10 to 14 business day period, we should see our gas prices return to the level that they were just 2-3 weeks ago. And Judea, for some price context, keep in mind that even at these levels we're paying today, which feels so painful, it is within the 5-year average of what we have been accustomed to paying on gas prices. It's just that gas prices had been depressed before the Iranian conflict, so we kind of have that recency bias, Judea. We got used to paying under $3 a gallon. But again, the truth of it is we're on par with about the 5-year average of price per gallon across Atlanta.
Justin, wasn't it sweet when we were seeing about, I think the last time I filled up before everything happened, it was like 270 something. I don't know when I'll see that number again. But
I'm with you. It's certainly more comfortable because those are real dollars
yeah,
that affect what kind of meal you're going to choose to eat out, or how much are you going to get at the grocery store, or are we going to do date night Saturday? You know,
yeah.
if it's 30% more to fill up your gas tank, you have to make economic decisions in most families.
And actually, Justin, that's the next thing that I wanted to get into. You mentioned that we were seeing barrel prices at about $60 per barrel, and then that jumped to about 90 once this conflict began. I think we were like looking at 100, hoping that that never happened. Just about an hour ago, I was reading this article that Iran was threatening $200 oil barrels. Now, I don't think either of us could speak to whether or not they can actually make good on a threat like that. I don't know that can happen. But if it did, let's think about these barrel prices. How do they affect not just our gas? You mentioned date night. Any other issues that we could potentially see?
Well, let's address a couple of the things, Judea. Okay. Great points here. So the Iranians are going to say inflammatory things like $200 a barrel of oil because they're trying to freak out the planet. Let's notice, by the way, no one's rushing to defend the Iranians or certainly get involved in helping them in this conflict with the United States and our allies. Not China, they're staying real quiet. Not Russia, they want no part of, hitching up their wagon with this current Iranian regime. Don't forget, Iran was a very progressive country until the revolution, the religious zealotry of the revolution of 1979. Prior to that, Iran was an ally prior to 1979 and one of the most progressive nations in the Middle East. But let's leave that there for now. As it relates to $200 a barrel oil, I just think it's unlikely. That's untenable, and the world's not going to sit around and accept that. But even at $100 or $110 or $120 a barrel for oil, it is a big strain on not just the U.S., but the total global economy, because it's not just what we pay to fill up our cars, trucks, minivans, whatever, it's businesses. So imagine if you were in the logistics game and you're driving around packages, or you're a gig worker for Uber or Lyft and you're driving around people. Now your profitability, your margin for profitability in your business is getting squeezed. Now imagine you're Delta Airlines or Southwest or American Airlines. Same exact concept. They're paying more for gasoline, so they're less profitable for every airplane that takes off and lands. So for all sorts of businesses moving all sorts of goods around the globe, when oil is more expensive, the cost to do business is simply more expensive.
Justin, I have really enjoyed getting to pick your brain. I like the way that you kind of bring this down to the level where all of us can understand, no matter what it is that you do for work or whatever education level it is that you may have. This makes sense. And this is the kind of, I think, important storytelling that we do need to keep doing. So I appreciate your time here on Fox 5 News Live. I'll let you go, though. And
Judea, thank you.
Of course, of course. Now, with you guys still out there streaming with us, there's so much still ahead. It's a beautiful day out across Georgia, especially here in Atlanta. But I do hear that could come with higher allergy rates, or just if you are sensitive to the pollen count, that could come to hurt you a little later on. So we'll be talking about the weather and how the allergy season will affect you coming up right after this. guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray in front of Lauren Robinson up to the stream deck. Lauren, it has been a beautiful day today, but it's also been beautiful the last week. We saw 80-degree weather. Could that continue?
Yesterday we made it into the low 80s. I think we make it there again today. We started our day with some gloomy clouds. Now we're getting a little bit of sunshine through the clouds. We're going to stay mostly cloudy, but it's not going to be, I guess, maybe what you might think of when I say mostly cloudy, because we're going to have high, thin clouds. So we're going to get some sunshine kind of peeking through. That's going to allow us to get into the 80s again today. But temperatures will take a big drop tomorrow. So
how big of a
let
drop
that
are
be
we
your
talking?
fair warning. We're looking at highs in the 50s tomorrow afternoon. Right now, most of us are already making our way toward the 70s in the middle to upper toward the 80s in the middle to upper 70s right now. 78 degrees in downtown Atlanta. You can see 79 in Covington, Athens. We're already at 82 degrees in Eatonton. Even up north, Blairsville, pretty warm at 73 degrees. So again, we're going to get very warm this afternoon. Another day in the 80s, well above average for this time of year. But then tomorrow, we're looking for those highs to drop below average, and that's all due to that cold front that'll be pushing its way through. Now, as it moves through states just west of us, mostly through Louisiana, Arkansas, into Mississippi, Alabama, even Tennessee, Kentucky, those areas are looking for the strongest storms, and that's because the storms along that front will hit those areas during the afternoon hours. And your afternoon hours are when you have that peak heating. It's when the atmosphere is most unstable. By the time it reaches us here in North Georgia, it'll be during the overnight hours, and that's when our atmosphere stabilizes a little bit, but we are still looking for some of those storms to pack a punch overnight tonight and into tomorrow. We can see that here on our hour-by-hour forecast. By tonight, those storms are pushing in from the northwest. Tomorrow morning, we're looking for storms and showers during that morning commute. Some of those storms could wake you up from your sleep early tomorrow morning, so there's your warning. And then as we go into tomorrow afternoon, we clear out very quickly behind that line. Those temperatures, though, will drop behind it. So we'll stay sunny through the weekend, and those temperatures will get a chance to rebound a bit. But as far as those storms this afternoon or this evening are concerned, well, some of them could be strong. The stronger storms again will fall west of Georgia. But even as we zoom into North Georgia, most of the viewing area is under a level 1 risk here. What this means is, as those storms are coming in, especially along that leading edge, we're looking for damaging wind possibilities, maybe even some hail, and possibility of a pop-up tornado. So the good news is, with these storms coming during the overnight hours, they're not going to be as strong as what they could be. The not so good news is, with them coming during the overnight hours, you won't be able to see them coming. So you need to make sure that you're weather aware. Keep your phone, your TV, things like that handy if you do hear that weather starting to rumble outside. Today, we're in the low 80s for our highs, and then overnight we drop into the 40s for most of us. Some of us will be in the 60s, but take a look at these temperatures. Tomorrow, we're dropping all the way into the 50s for our highs. It's going to be noticeably cooler out there. Through the weekend, we start to slowly warm our way back up under sunny skies, and then Sunday night into Monday, another system moves through that drops us right back into the 50s for the start of our next work week.
50s aren't that bad when you think about the fact that these storms could potentially bring us some relief for, more specifically, allergy sufferers. So that's kind of can be some good news. And that actually brings us into the next interview that I have set up for you guys. First of all, raise your hand if you have been personally victimized by allergy season here in the state of Georgia, because I have. I had never experienced allergies until I moved here. And I found out that that's because Georgia just overall has a high pollen count. So I wanted to bring in an expert on this. This is Dr. Sylvia Morris joining us. First of all, welcome. She joined us from Kaiser Permanente, Atlanta. Dr. Morris, talk to me a little bit about these pollen impacts, how it impacts our health.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. So when you think about, we've been walking outside, we see all the trees that are in bloom now, and with that blooming comes pollen. So with the pollen, it's just nice to remember that, hey, if you do have allergies or you've suffered previously, then it is time to start taking your allergy medicine and having a conversation either with your pharmacist or with your primary primary care doctor can help to identify the best medicine for you. So sometimes people have itchy, watery eyes, they have that weird tickle in their throat, they may have kind of a cough or be sneezing a lot, and it's important to go ahead and to take your allergy medicine.
Okay, so take our allergy medicine. That seems to be the easiest way to do things. But I also want to ask, is it possible at all to avoid pollen in Georgia? And if so, please tell me the different ways that we can do that.
If we had that, we would be, on a beach somewhere. There's no to avoid pollen. I think we have to remember that pollen means that things are going to grow.
True.
Now, what do we do when there's a lot of pollen around? Simple things. Remember, your mom would tell you to take your clothes off and your shoes when you came into the house. We had outside clothes, we have inside clothing, because you want to do that because that pollen sticks to our clothing, our shoes. It also sticks to our hair. So if you can so if you can take a shower or just kind of wipe down when you come in from the outside, that's important. There are also things you can do in your home. So remember your HVAC. It's time to change that filter so that it can filter out all of the pollen or most of the pollen that can come into your house. Simple things like you would think, oh, let me open the windows to get some fresh air in. Not so fast. Leave your windows closed. If you can, go ahead and turn on your AC if it's warm, because we want to try and keep the pollen out. That also goes for if you're driving. Don't open up that sunroof or open those windows. Keep the windows closed, AC on to try and keep the pollen out.
So happy that you started all of that with saying inside clothes, outside clothes, because people look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them to take their shoes off in my house. I also don't sit on my bed with my outside clothes on for this very reason. You never know what you're bringing in, whether it's germs or in this case, pollen that could make it a little harder for you to breathe. Dr. Sylvia, there's so much more that I could ask you. Unfortunately, that's our time here. But just let everybody know if they had more questions, they wanted to see a physician about some of the issues that they might be experiencing, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, certainly you can go online, Kaiser Permanente online, and then also go to Asthma and Allergy Association of America. That would be a good starting point.
Okay.
Talk to your primary care doctor as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and helping us get through allergy season. We love this weather, but unfortunately it can also bring some things that can trigger us. So again, I appreciate your time with us. All right, you guys, still ahead. I want to get you this look at this school food pantry. So we'll tell you a little bit more about it. Our Eli Jordan has been covering it all morning long. This is to help kids in need, and we'll talk about how they're able to do that in just a second. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 and News Live. There's a new pantry around town that's helping some kids eat. Want to get right out to our Eli Jordan, who's taking us to this new market. He can take it away from there.
I'm up in North Cross at Stripling Elementary, a pre-K through 5th grade school where they've opened the Red Rocket Market. What's that? It's a food pantry for kids who might be experiencing some food scarcity in the school. And I am with April West, who helped bring this about. Hey, Miss West, how you doing? She's happy. Yeah, it's a good day, isn't it?
We're open.
Yes, so tell me about this. Why did you come up with it? I mean, how's it work? All the good stuff.
So the Red Rocket Market was just birthed out of the idea a couple years ago, wanting to feed the need of the students and families that we serve here at Stripling Elementary. We have about an 85% free and reduced lunch population, and we wanted to make sure that because the kids are fed here, you know, with breakfast and lunch, they're also fed at home.
This is on Friday, so yeah, it's important to get them over the week. You guys don't see them over the weekends.
No, we don't see them over the weekends, but we want to make sure that on Monday when they come back to school, they are ready to learn. So we provide and support about 25 families currently, and they will receive meals on Friday, full meals with protein, grains, vegetables, and they're able to prepare those meals at home, and then kids can come back to school ready to rock it.
So, you know, you're a counselor here.
Yes.
How prevalent is food scarcity amongst, I guess, would you say, you know, just from your experience of, you know, being a counselor and knowing the school systems and stuff, it's, you know, something that's quiet that goes across the whole system. A lot of kids that more than we know experience this, correct?
That is true. A lot more kids than we know experience food insecurities, and so we are wanting to close that gap and make sure that those who cannot receive food are able to get that over the weekend.
And if I'm a parent and my kid is not on this yet, they're coming to the school. How do I get my kid involved with this?
We welcome you. All you need to do is call Stripling Elementary. You can call the main number. They can transfer you to one of the counselors, and we will get you started. We'll add you to our list, and then go ahead and add you to that Friday numbers that we have already.
And so tell me, what all do people get whenever, you know, on the weekends? When a kid comes in here on Friday, what can they expect, I guess?
Oh, well, lots of things. So this Friday, well, Thursday, because Friday is a digital learning day, we are providing families with spaghetti. So spaghetti is our first meal. They will get the spaghetti noodles, the sauce, the meat. They will get a side of green beans, and everything that they need to make a meal also will include a fruit.
That's awesome. And so, you know, also, you got a lot, you know, 85% of your students qualify for reduced or free lunch. So I expect that you guys expect more people to take advantage of this.
Yes, and we would love more people to take advantage of it. But with that comes the need, right? So we love someone to donate. If you all have it in your heart to donate to our cause here at Stripling Elementary, you can also call the main line and they will get you connected to a counselor.
Awesome. This is a really cool endeavor that you guys have done here at Stripling Elementary. The Red Rocket Market, right?
Yes, the Red Rocket Market.
That's cool. That's cool. Red Rocket Market, guys, is open today. Had the ribbon cutting to help out their kids in need. So, you know, if you want to check it out, need more information, go to the website and maybe speak to a counselor if you need to. Back to you guys.
All right, you guys heard it there first. The Red Rocket Market officially open for business. Although everything in there is free, they did say their first meals that they'll be giving out is spaghetti, which is great news. And I also wanted to harp on the fact that they are fully donation-based. So these are people who, out of the kindness of their own hearts, are just trying to give back, want to make sure that these kids can be fed. This is not something that's coming out of your own tax dollars or anything like that. So again, that cool initiative happening at Stripling Elementary School. All right, you guys, we are going to get back to the main story. I know all of you guys want to know what's going on with the attacks on Iran, what's the latest in that, and how it impacts us here in America. We talked about gas prices, but another thing that we should be talking about is how it's going to impact American businesses. We know diesel prices have been skyrocketing ever since the start of that conflict. I've even been chatting back and forth with a truck driver who says that he filled up for $3.19 as it pertains to diesel fuel. On Wednesday, $3.99, and then by Friday was already at $4.74. I can't imagine what he's at now. And he says it's already impacting his bottom line. I'm hearing that some other business owners, like farmers, are also being impacted. So I want to jump right in with Asher Red. He's from Fox, and he's at a farm. I don't want to mispronounce the name of the city. It's out in Tennessee. Asher, help me out here.
It's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, just south of Nashville.
Murfreesboro. Okay, that helps me put it on the map a little bit there. We hear some farmers out there are trying to fit these higher fuel prices into their daily budgets. What's it looking like out there where you are?
Well, Jediah, we know that farmers work on extremely tight profit margins, and they're pretty notorious for that. Sometimes they're making just a few cents for a bushel of their crops. Now, this tractor right here runs on 170 gallons of diesel fuel. And right now, a gallon of diesel will run you about $4.83 a gallon, depending on where you are in the country, of course. And that has to be filled up every day during planting season, which is just around the corner for these farmers. They got to plant in the spring to get ready for their summer crops and then harvest in the fall. That shakes out to more than $820 per day for that tractor this time of year. And so all these farmers, they're hoping that this doesn't go on for too much longer, because this could really put them in a pretty big deficit, as you could imagine. And they're having to go back to some of their fuel that they have in storage here, because right now they're trying to save as much money as possible. They have teams of people who are in charge of managing how much money is actually spent on fuel and trying to cut that down as much as possible. One of the farmers here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, tells me that this has to end soon. Take a listen.
Get some resolution here in the next few months. We'll burn through that buffer that we have here. We probably burn about 1,500 gallons a day in diesel, and then also at harvest we'll burn about 5,000 gallons of LP a day.
And all of that on top of the 20,000 gallons of diesel they have in storage and the 6,000 gallons of LP, like you just heard, which is basically just propane gas, basically. And all of that gets burned so quickly they have to have these shipments come in time after time, day after day this time of year as they're getting ready to sow their fields. Back to you.
The amount of fuel that man was just saying that he uses just to run his farm is actually pretty consistent with what that truck driver was telling me that he uses in order to carry out his loads each day. And so I can imagine just how that's affecting a lot of different people. Let me ask you this though, did anybody tell you about what their plan is to try to ride out these rising costs?
Well, on the farming side of things, they're trying to use as much as they can. They're trying to cut down on their fuel spending as much as possible, but there's really only so much of that you can do. Now, that farmer you just heard from, Will Hutchinson, he says that he's been in this game for a while. Most of these farmers, it's been a generational thing, and they understand the value of patience. He says one bad season doesn't necessarily ruin long-term success, and he says this is a roller coaster, and farmers are always on the front row of it.
Well, they sure are. I mean, we know here in Georgia, agriculture is one of our biggest industries, and so a lot of our farmers are also looking towards this. Asher, again, with you as well. There are plenty of more questions that I could ask you. Unfortunately, that is our time, so I'll let you get back to gathering some more news for the other stations that you'll be making some appearances on. But you guys, I mean, weigh in with me in the chat. First of all, do you use diesel fuel? Do you use it for business? Is it impacting you? Positively, negatively? I mean, weigh in on all of it. I'd like to just figure out what really is going on here. All right, now I want to bring in our digital team, Joyce Lupiani, one of our digital content creators. Joyce, what are people clicking on? What are they interested in reading and hearing more about today? Hold on, Joyce. I think we're picking up audio from another one of our guests. Give us a second to see if we can hear you. Try again.
Hey, Judea,
Got
can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
All right, so where are we at? Do you want me to start over?
Yes, please.
Okay, so this first story kind of makes me sad. It's about Buc-ee's, and Buc-ee's is famous for its brisket sandwiches, its spotless bathrooms, and the cheap gas. Well, apparently not everybody is a fan, because quite a few people have filed complaints, and the Better Business Bureau has given it an F rating. So these complaints are basically, some people are complaining about the pricing, saying that some of its stuff is overpriced. Product issues, I think one of the complaints said like the wrap that they got was so bad that they threw it out the window. And then another complaint was something about a gift card. Now, according to the story I read, there was only like 90 complaints filed. I mean, I don't really think that's a lot considering how many Buc-ee's there are. I mean, we have 3 here in the state, and we're going to have another one like early next year. And Bucky's is like all over the place. And if you've been there, you know it's like crazy anytime you go in there. There's like so many people. So, I mean, I don't think 90 customer complaints is a lot, but they did get an F rating.
Yeah, F is pretty bad, Joyce. Now, what's funny is, I mean, you guys don't know this, but I'll fill you in. When Joyce and I first started working together, I let her know I had never been to a Buc-ee's before. I have since made my way down. I'm just, you know, if I'm being honest, I haven't necessarily seen a lack in customer service. It seemed like there were so many people in there and they were happy, but, you know, I don't know what happens at every Buc-ee's, that's for sure.
Okay, you scared me there for a minute. I thought you were going to
No.
say you didn't like Buc-ee's. I'm like, oh my God, we got to stop talking right now. But
You would've
anyway,
kicked me off the show.
moving on. This next story is out of Florida, and it's
Mhm.
kind of funny. So apparently there was an Amazon
Mhm.
delivery driver out making some deliveries, and he was like blocking the road. And I'm pretty sure most of us have had that happen to us. So this guy in Florida, he's like 63-year-old. He apparently got out of his car, got into the Amazon van, and like started driving away because he wanted to get it out of the road. And the Amazon driver had told him, you know, hey, it's going to take me a minute and I'll move it. And he just didn't want to wait. Well, the unfortunate part, besides like driving away with the Amazon van, is the driver had jumped into the van. So now the guy, the one that was moving the van because he was upset, not only is he being charged with like grand theft, but he's also being charged with kidnapping. So, you know, that part is kind of sad too. I mean, it is one of those things that's a little bit funny, but then this guy is facing some serious charges. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, life comes at you fast. I mean, I can't imagine. I wanted to make a joke, but like you just said, I mean, this is really serious. I wonder how this case will go, whether or not they'll, you know, let those charges stick. But having Florida man in the caption, I mean, it just kind of seems like that's what happens down there. Are there any other stories that people are really picking up?
So I got one more. This
Okay.
was actually our reporter story last night,
Mhm.
Denise Dillon. It's about robotic dogs, and it's
I saw
really
this.
cool. Yeah, so this apartment complex here in Atlanta was having some issues. It's like there was a rash of break-ins. So they got with this company, and now there are two robotic dogs that are patrolling the property. One of them is apparently like right inside the gate, and the other one like patrols the perimeter. And just recently, they had some guy come onto the property who wanted to probably cause some issues or break into something. And the security guards who were monitoring the dogs, because they can watch them like on the monitors, so they saw this guy and like sent the robotic dogs over there to see what was going on. And it was enough that it scared the guy off. So this company, like I said, they got with the company here in Atlanta. They're based in Atlanta, and apparently they have about 60 of these robots, security robots. I don't know if they're all dogs or not, but they have about 60 robots that are like patrolling different properties around town. So, I mean, robotic dogs, they look pretty cool. We've seen like, you know, the police around here using these dogs, but I wasn't aware that they were like out patrolling like private property. So pretty cool. A lot of people have been clicking on that story today.
I mean, I wasn't aware of that either. And when I first heard that story, my first thought, of course, you know, I'm not prowling around these apartment complexes at night, but I was just thinking to myself, if I was out trying to do some nefarious deed, would a patrol dog stop me? But apparently, in most cases, it has actually helped thwart crime.
I would probably try to take it home, but I guess it's doing its
That's
job.
another
and it is
crime,
scaring some
Joyce.
people away. Yeah, I know. Whatever.
All right, well, thank you for giving us a look at what's interesting people. And I mean, just from listening to the stories, I can understand why everybody's clicking on them. You guys, Joyce, again, she works for a digital content team. And so if you are looking for some stories, head to fox5atlanta.com. You can also go to Fox Local to see the latest that we've been reporting on. All right, still ahead, I want to get you out to this career expo, because it's not just like any other one. They're really helping kids lean into work with aerospace, aerospace and with some parts of science. I'll get a little more information from our Chris Rosenthal. He's been out there live reporting for us. We'll be able to touch base with him in just a second. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. You know and love this woman right here, Ariel Onstott. It's so different. I think this is our first time co-hosting together.
I think so. Judea, after all this time, I feel like it should have happened sooner. But
Life
here we are.
happens.
So at 2 o'clock,
Yes.
we've got a lot of really exciting things on tap. And I say some things that are exciting and fun, and some things, of course, that you guys need to be informed on. For our reporters' stories, Kevin Stewart is actually speaking with the incoming CEO of Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Their longtime CEO is departing, and we're going to talk about what that means for the future of one of Atlanta's biggest staples, which is our Children's Hospital. We're also going to speak to Tyler Fingert. Gwinnett County just got weapons detectors in all of its middle and high schools. So, of course, security is a huge concern for parents and educators, and we're going to see how these weapon systems are able to detect threats. And interestingly enough, you know, middle and high schoolers are where they're going to be at. Not elementary schools, but I'm curious if they could be rolled out there as well.
Okay. Does it kind of, I mean, I know you're going to have to talk to them and figure things
Sure.
out here, but does it kind of seem like maybe they're testing them with the older children and seeing how they handle them?
I think so. And I think that statistically speaking, the risks are often present with the middle and high schoolers. However, we have seen some instances like here recently in Hall County at their elementary school, an 8-year-old ended up with a gun, bringing it to the classroom. And while there were no threats made and police were able to secure everything, it is just a concern that educators and parents have. So going to talk about that. It is possible, you know, Gwinnett County schools are one of our largest school districts. So going to see maybe what other things they're looking ahead to implement. And then we're going to chat with Doug Evans. He's actually starting us off with a story of a Peachtree City Lululemon that got hit by snatch and grab thieves. And it's interesting because Doug was actually telling me it sounds like it's a ring of Atlanta women that's wanted for similar crimes. So going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But he's going to talk about that coming up at 2.
Okay. I feel like I've heard of Lululemon burglaries a lot, especially recently. And I wonder if it's potentially tied to the same group, if it is a ring.
Yeah, and that's what Doug was saying. And that's one of my big questions. Also, just the idea of, you know, I know the one on the west side got hit a couple times. And I want to ask Doug if they think it's the same. If I believe if I'm correct, the one on the west side actually closed. I don't know if it did permanently, but at least for a short time while they were getting back up because their front door had been shattered or some other glass. So definitely going to look into that. And then, of course, going to keep you guys updated on the latest with Iran, what we're following there. We just learned that the Iran men's team, soccer team, will not be playing in the FIFA World Cup. So that's a big update.
Big deal.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for giving us a look at what you'll be covering in the 2 o'clock. Remember, stay with her on Fox Local. We're also streaming on a couple of our social media platforms. Ariel, thank you so much for that. All right. So remember, I told you about this big story coming up. Actually, Ariel, you may have also put this in your too. I'm not quite sure yet.
Yeah.
Our Chris Rosenthal has been checking
I
out
did.
these career expos, but this one is for students who are interested in science and aerospace. Let's check it out.
You know, high school is a time of really figuring out what sort of job path, what sort of career path you may want to take when you get out there into the workforce. But sometimes it really helps to sort of get a sense, get an idea of what options are really out there. And that's why Aerotropolis Atlanta's had this event today. This is actually their 6th annual Career Expo event. They had it here at the Georgia International Convention Center, welcoming about 600 or so students from Fulton and Clayton counties, giving them an opportunity to network, to meet with about 40 or so businesses and companies, just to see sort of what options are out there, what kind of jobs are out there, what opportunities there are, and also have breakout sessions, meeting with business professionals, learning about things like resumes and networking. I talked with Shannon James with Aerotropolis just about this event and why it's so important.
Today we're hosting our 7th annual College Career and Resource Expo, where we basically as an organization bring out corporations in our backyard within South Fulton and Clayton County to expose our juniors and seniors in South Fulton and Clayton County schools to opportunities that are in our backyard. So it's our way of serving as a bridge between community and corporations.
I mean, what does this mean for the students? Because I know, maybe in high school you may not know exactly what you want to do for a living.
Well, and that's the thing, right? In high school, I had no clue of what I wanted to do or be. And so this is our chance to help them better connect the dots on, at least in proximity, who's close to you, right? Here are some ideas to consider, and here are various options to get you to a desired end result, meaning a career, right? A livable wage career.
And, looking around this room, this is a room they're getting to meet with various professionals from other companies. But talk to me about what's on in store for these students today. Breakout sessions, whatnot.
That's right. So we have a full day we've planned out for the students. They started out with just key introductions to several key leaders across our region. And then we had breakout sessions where they're learning about resume building and thinking about soft skills when we're thinking about the next step. And then also they're talking to resource partners. We have people like Strive ATL and Construction Ready and other companies who are like Atlanta Sufficiency. They're here to help students think about, hey, if you're not thinking about a 4-year institution or a 2-year institution, there are other resources to help you get to certification and a livable wage career. And then ultimately, we've got over 40 corporate partners in the room to help our students think about what it looks like in careers, whether it's a city, Union City, or even a corporation like Atlanta Gas Light or even Delta or Hartsfield Jackson.
And I talked with students today too, just about this event and what they get out of it.
I think that networking here especially helps give these opportunities to these students, because guess what? We might be in a room with like-minded people that we don't even know. So just having that one conversation with them can get us a ticket to a career path that we wouldn't even know that we would get. So I think that this is a great opportunity for minorities, especially for us, because guess what? We're the next generation, baby.
I got a lot of network connections and a lot of career paths that I didn't even know was optional for me. I feel like underclassmen, such as freshmen and sophomore, don't show up to events like this enough, and they only expect the juniors and seniors. So I feel like it's very important for the freshmen and sophomores to stand up and put in the work that it takes so they have a plan before they're seniors.
Really a wide variety of companies and careers for these students to explore. A lot of them say they didn't even realize some of these jobs and opportunities were here for them, and I think that's pretty successful for those students.
Chris, incredible. As they say, if you see it, you can be it. And clearly those students, you hear just how well-spoken they are about what it is that they want to do with their lives and how important this is to them. Clearly, everybody is taking full advantage of it. All right, want to keep you up to date with everything that we are learning more about this conflict with Iran and how it's going to affect your pockets. And we have been talking about gas prices. Everything that's happening right now near the Strait of Hormuz clearly has a direct impact on the gas prices that we're seeing, even here in Georgia. More shippers have been reluctant to travel through the area due to Iranian threats. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is trying to keep Americans calm. She's been telling the media that this recent increase in oil and gas prices is only temporary and that it should come back down any minute now. Meanwhile, the AAA says the average gas price for today in the state of Georgia is $3.41 for regular, which is, of course, almost 10 cents up from yesterday. Then, of course, we're seeing about $4.94 for diesel fuel, which is up almost 7 cents from yesterday. Now, Governor Kemp says that he's holding off on a state gas tax suspension that could potentially give Georgia drivers some relief. And he says that it's because he is trying to see what the country will do, whether or not this conflict will ease itself out on its own. Let's listen to what he had to tell us.
Also suspended the gas tax in the past to be able to help them do that too. But we also have not overreacted to something that potentially could be a short-term blip. So we're going to continue to watch things. I mean, oil prices shot up to $115 a barrel 24, 48 hours ago, and now they're back down to 90. I know the president's very focused on this issue. Also, it's going to be interesting to see how markets around the world adjust to what's happening in Iran. God bless, and praying for our troops, by the way. But I think you'll see markets start to shift to use different trade routes that will be very effective. And the good thing is, because of energy policies right now in the United States of America, we're pumping a record amount of oil and natural gas, which has made us energy independent. Now, we're subject to global markets, but from an energy security standpoint and long-term economic viability, I think we're in a really good place. But we're just going to continue to watch the market for a few more days, and then we'll monitor that as we go.
All right, so you heard it there from our governor, what the plan is. Now, still ahead, the news does continue at 2. Don't go anywhere. We have a lot more headlines and more information coming for you right after this.
Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here on your Wednesday afternoon. It is great to see you. We've got a lot of news to get to. We're going to talk about the latest in Iran. We're also going to check in with our local reporters on some stories we're following here close to home. And I'd like to start with a few that our newsroom is tracking. The first one deals with a Cobb County teacher and coach being accused of improper sexual conduct. Let's check out some pages from what investigators are discussing, because this coach has been arrested. He worked as both a teacher and a coach for Cobb County schools. And at this point, we're not learning the name of that coach and teacher. That has not been released. But we know that this investigation centers on a sexual offense investigation involving a minor. And Cobb County police arrested this man from Ackworth. He's 37 years old. And the investigators say the case was launched after the Special Victims Unit received information about an incident. Detectives later got warrants for that teacher's arrest, and the case is being handled by the department's Special Victims Unit and is under investigation at this time. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we get any new information on this story. I want to move on and let you know where we stand with the latest as far as Georgia's runoff election. So let's get into it, because at this point, the race to see who's going to replace former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be a runoff between these two gentlemen. You see Democrat Shawn Harris on your right and Republican Clay Fuller on the left. They are going to head to an April 7th runoff. Third place finisher Colton Moore holds 12% of the vote. So that could make whoever he endorses a potential, it could be a kingmaker for whoever he endorses. And despite Shawn Harris's current lead, Georgia's historical runoff trends and Republican consolidation do favor a GOP comeback. So we'll continue to keep you updated, but it was a free-for-all special election on Tuesday with a total of 17 candidates, down from the initial 22 vying for the seat. And among those candidates were 12 on Tuesday's ballot. So we're going to continue to keep you updated there. Also want to tell you, speaking of local politics, about a controversial politician who's now running for a Fulton County Commissioner seat. You're taking a look at Tiffany Henyard. She's from Chicago, and this controversial politician from up north has dubbed herself the, quote, super mayor. She's relocated to Metro Atlanta, and she now wants to serve on Fulton County's commission. But she was removed from her mayoral seat up north in Dolton, Illinois, and owes $10,000 in rent in Illinois. She was ousted from her seat, her mayor's seat in that Chicago suburb, after allegations, or rather several years of controversy over her behavior and spending of taxpayer dollars, including a 2024 FBI corruption probe. Now, despite that, no charges were filed against Henyard. She's running as the only Republican candidate for District 5. I should note she previously was a Democrat, now running as a Republican. We reached out to her to see if we could chat with her about her decision to run here in Fulton County. We've yet to hear back, so we'll continue to keep you updated there. As we continue, I want to let you know this is a pretty crazy story. Some residents here in Atlanta are fed up with crime, and so in one Atlanta neighborhood, they're actually deploying these robotic dogs to patrol and deter crime. They're patrolling the GE Lofts apartments in the Castleberry Hill neighborhood, and just recently we actually saw a man managed to force his way onto the apartment property. Cameras picked up his movements and the dog was deployed. You can see video there of that incident. The alarm went off and the intruder quickly left the property. So behind every dog is a team of humans monitoring the cameras and, if needed, deploying the dogs. Operators can communicate through the robot and notify police if necessary. So one of these two dogs patrols inside the gate of the apartment. The other patrols outside the perimeter. GE Loft says they have numerous security measures on the property, but even despite a large gate topped with wire, bright lighting, and multiple cameras, criminals have managed to come in. In November, 6 guys, some with guns, were caught on camera making their way into the parking lot, going through cars and stealing what they could find. Residents understandably were frustrated, so in January, they opted to get these robotic dogs. And after seeing the dogs in action, they hope they've finally found a solution. So curious, would you get a robotic dog to patrol your property? That's maybe a good potential use of robots. We'll continue to keep you updated on that. As we continue continue here. Speaking of crime, it looks like we have our Doug Evans ready to chat with us about a story that we are following here in the newsroom today. Lululemon has been a victim, this retailer, victim of a snatch and grab theft. And we're now learning a little bit more about some arrests police have made. Doug Evans joins us live. And Doug, I understand these happened in Peachtree City.
It did, but it is happening all over Metro Atlanta, Ariel. This is what they call an organized retail crime gang, and 2 women are under arrest as a part of this. This happened back on March 6th. We're just now learning about it, in which 2 women went into the local Lululemon store at the Avenue in Peachtree City and apparently helped themselves to thousands of dollars of merchandise. They stuffed this merchandise into bags and then simply walked out. Apparently, that's a common scenario, police say, at Lululemon stores all over Metro Atlanta. And one of the reasons for that, according to police, is that Lululemon has a policy in which they don't confront shoplifters and they allow them to leave the store. And so these women, and I've seen the surveillance video, we will have that for you on Fox 5 this evening, simply walk out with the goods in plain sight. And so the corporate team at Lululemon has been monitoring this. And apparently, Ariel, they're the ones that called, not the local store. The corporate office of Lululemon apparently called police. Police were already working with them on thefts at that particular store. They responded very quickly. They got into a high-speed chase with these 2 women. It ended with a crash and they were taken into custody. And what we've learned is that these 2 women are wanted all throughout Metro Atlanta for the same type of crime at the same type of stores. And maybe linked to other crimes at other stores because they say they are part of this organized retail crime ring in which it's not just people stealing because they need a t-shirt, they need a fancy pair of jeans or whatever. It's because they sell the items and then the money for that, police say, goes to establish this ring and support and fund this ring. And they say some of these retail crime gangs, some of the funding has been traced back to terrorism itself. So it's a very serious problem here.
Yeah, Doug, that's pretty remarkable. I would not have necessarily expected that severe of a connection there. But it is interesting to see that I feel Lululemon here in our city at least, and maybe just because it's a popular brand, but I've heard of numerous smash and grab type attempts. We saw one here on the west side, West Midtown in Atlanta. So interesting to see that this one in Peachtree City has been a victim of this. And the fact that the corporate office called, not the local office.
Right, right. And they say they have developed a partnership between the Peachtree City Police Department and the corporate office of Lululemon because it was becoming such a problem at the store in the Avenue that they developed this relationship. And so they had them quickly on the horn, and so to speak. And police responded very quickly to the Avenue and tried to get these people under arrest. Unfortunately, it involved a chase at over 100 miles an hour as these 2 women tried to get away. They did recover the merchandise, thousands of dollars of it. And I don't know what that means in terms of Lululemon pricing, but thousands of dollars. And
it's less
not only
than
that,
you
but they
would
say
think,
they
Doug.
found evidence. Yeah, I'm sure it is. And they say they found evidence of other similar crimes from other stores in the car. They say they also found tools, Ariel, that these women apparently had or allegedly had, in which they would remove the security devices on the clothes as well.
Interesting, Doug.
So they're facing a number of charges here in Peachtree City. We're going to lay all of that out for you this evening at 4, 5, and 6.
Perfect.
We'll have video. I'm waiting, and the reason we don't have it, Ariel.
Yeah, some transparency.
You might be curious why is Doug Evans talking so much and we're not seeing anything. We're waiting on police to send the video over to us. so that we will have video of the chase. I can
Got
tell you
it.
what we will have. We'll have video of the chase. We'll have the mugshots of these two women. We'll also have photos of the merchandise that was recovered, and including a surveillance photo of them actually leaving the store here at
Good
the
stuff,
Avenue in
Doug.
Peachtree City. So all of that to come. Stay tuned.
Perfect. A nice little teaser, if you will, Doug. I definitely appreciate it. I'll let you get back to information gathering, and we'll see you here this evening. But thanks so much, Doug, for letting us know where this story stands this afternoon. I'll let you get back to it. As it continues, you guys, some of you in the chat weighing in, the story about robotic dogs, where I'd asked if you'd like a crime-fighting robotic dog. Some of you guys are saying yes. I don't blame you. I feel like I would like one myself. It's a pretty nifty way to put technology to use. And if I saw this in the dark, I might be scared too. But let's move on, because where do we stand with some bike lanes that are opening here in the city of Atlanta? Let's get to this update, because we've seen these new bike lanes pop up here throughout our city, especially in Midtown Atlanta, and more are on the way. Atlanta leaders have officially opened the long-awaited Juniper Street protected bike lanes. This was part of a $5 million safety initiative dating back to 2019. But there are growing concerns from drivers about Midtown traffic congestion. You've seen this bike lane. It stretches down Juniper from 17th Street to 3rd Street, or excuse me, from 14th Street to Ponce de Leon Avenue. There's another project that's going to soon begin on Spring Street, and that's going to be from 17th to 3rd Street and on West Peachtree from Linden Avenue to 17th. So just keep in mind, more bike lanes are coming to the Midtown area. Midtown consists of approximately 70 miles of streets, but ultimately city leaders say that these projects involve repurposing less than 10% of that space. So they're working to finalize some designs, and we'll keep you updated as they continue to work on it. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, I want to get you guys an update of a big story that we're following in Gwinnett County. Leaders are working to show us a little bit more about how some new weapons detectors are going to work at middle and high schools. We understand they're deploying these systems at all Gwinnett County middle and high schools. So let's get out to our Tyler Fingert as he's been covering the story today. Tyler, thanks so much for joining us live. Did you get to see these weapons detectors and how they work today?
Yeah, Ariel, actually, they've already finished installing them in all of Gwinnett County's middle and high schools. They spent about $20 million on this project to be able to add this technology to all of these schools, again, middle and high schools. And so obviously the goal is to have no weapons on school campuses. If you take a look right here, we're just outside of McConnell Middle School in Loganville. They have this blue sign that says Safe School Notice, Drug and Weapon Free School Zone. That is the biggest concern. They want to make sure there are no weapons on campus. And so these new weapon detection systems are obviously going to be making sure that is happening. And so today the school system showed off the technology that now that it is fully in place, the district says this is about adding another layer of security for students and staff. Now that it's in place at every middle and high school, district leaders say the technology is already helping them identify potential threats before they get inside school buildings. The weapons detectors use sensors and artificial intelligence to identify items that could be dangerous while allowing students to walk through without emptying their pockets. Backpacks are also put through X-ray machines. The district says before the system was put in place from July 2024 through February of 2025, schools detected 5 guns. During that same time frame, they also found 30 airsoft or BB guns, 97 knives, and 35 razor blades. As the new detectors were being installed this school year from July of last year through February, the district says they found 2 guns, 57 knives, 6 airsoft or BB guns, and 6 razor blades. None of the guns found this school year were on students, according to officials, but rather visitors who said they forgot they had the weapon on them. And if you were listening closely to the numbers, Ariel, you would have noticed the numbers seem to have gone down. We did ask school officials today what that was about. Maybe was it a deterrent, people realizing, hey, I need to check my bag, I don't want to get caught with it. They said they're not really sure at this point, but they're obviously monitoring the data. School leaders say the technology is just one part of a larger security strategy designed to keep campuses safe, and parents we spoke with are happy to see this technology on campus. Take a listen.
Times are changing, and we've got to evolve with that. So if that's something that we need to make sure that our parents feel good about sending their kids away for a few hours a day, or that our kids need to be able to concentrate and focus on their academics and not worry about the outside stresses of what we cannot control, it could be looked at as a sad thing and a sad moment in reality, but really I think it's just something we need to do, and I'd rather be proactive than reactive.
The installation at all of our high schools and middle schools has been extremely successful. We're getting very good positive feedback from our faculty, staff, students, and community members.
I was going to say, I kind of... Yeah, so that was the police chief for Gwinnett County Public Schools. You heard from there. Obviously, they are happy to have this technology now in place at all middle and high schools here in the county. We did ask whether they're looking at possibly putting this into elementary schools. They say they're obviously looking at that. There's no decision. That's not something that they are actively pursuing at this moment, but they're obviously going to be making that decision over the course of the next maybe the months ahead and years ahead to decide if that's something they feel is necessary. But also I should mention they may be mandated to do elementary schools if the legislature gets their way. If the bill was introduced in the legislature within the last short time, that would require all public schools to have weapon detection systems like this evolved technology in school systems throughout Georgia.
Tyler, that was going to be one of my big questions, is just high school and middle school now. Any update as to whether or not elementary schools could get this? I do want to let you know, Tyler, we have some questions here in our chats. On YouTube, Robert Martinez is saying that's a lot of money. Why wouldn't you rather have just a school resource officer to help? Because it would be a lot cheaper. But it sounds like maybe a school resource officer isn't enough to maybe catch some of these things that are going through. Is that, what's the take?
So in elementary schools, that's where the school, they have a school resource officer, and that's what they're doing for that, for the time frame. The fact that a school resource officer, depending how many they would have in individual schools, 1 to 2, you may not be able to see what's in a backpack or what's in someone's pocket or something like that. So they say that this technology obviously will help with that. And I did ask a couple of the parents we spoke with about their thoughts on spending $20 million, and they said that this is well worth it. If you think about it, I believe there are more than 50 middle and high schools here in Gwinnett County. So $20 million spread between all of that is less than $1 million per school. And so, according to officials, they believe that this is money well spent. A lot of parents believe this is money well spent, especially knowing that not far from here, just up the road in Barrow County, we had that tragic Appalachian High School shooting, which claimed 4 lives and wounded 9 others back in 2024. And so they want to be able to keep people safe, and they believe that, unfortunately, this is a sign of the times that people unfortunately are willing to do harm, and so they want to be able to catch a person with a weapon before they can inflict that harm inside a school campus.
Tyler, good points, and I think, for a lot of parents, $20 million from a part of the school district to help protect their kids, small price to pay, because you'd pay anything to help protect your child's life. So, Tyler Fingert, I'll let you get back to gathering information and putting your story together. Thanks so much for joining us. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, I want to continue to keep you guys updated on everything that we're following here in our newsroom. Let's move nationally here. I want to let you know what's happening with the Epstein files, because we do have updates there. But first, let's talk about something that unfolded outside the White House today when a car drove through a barricade near the White House. Officials say a van drove through that barricade, and it happened just this morning. The driver's been apprehended. No injuries have been reported, but both D.C. police and Secret Service are investigating, and drivers have been told to avoid that area as roads are closed. We're not sure whether or not this was a medical episode or something more sinister, and as we get more information, we'll continue to keep you updated. But as it relates to Iran, let's talk about where we stand there, because things are shifting, and nearly 2 weeks into Operation Epic Fury, the United States and Israel do continue to target sites across Iran. We're now learning why we haven't seen Iran's new supreme leader since the strike happened that killed his father, and we're going to talk about why that is. So let's get into it, because Iran is still launching missiles towards Israel and other Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, etc. There are multiple signs that the next phase of this war could shift to the sea. Iranian forces have struck a Thai cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz. forcing nearly a dozen crew members to evacuate. And we'll bring in some video of the war with Iran here in just a little bit, but I'll continue to talk about what we're seeing and what we know, because British maritime authorities say it was one of 3 vessels that were attacked near the critical waterway today, near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has effectively closed traffic in the strait, where about a fifth of the world's oil and gas travel. You can see that Thai ship there, that photo with the flames just pouring from it. Yesterday, U.S. forces struck more than a dozen Iranian vessels following concerns the country was preparing to lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Defense officials say Iran's ballistic missile and drone attacks have dropped drastically since the start of Operation Epic Fury. But on Capitol Hill, Democrats are arguing that there is no clear strategy, and they want answers as to what the United States exit plan may look like. As the strikes continue, Iran's new supreme leader is out of sight. He's reportedly in the hospital after being seriously hurt in the strike that killed his father, wife, and teenage son. Iran's ambassador says he's lucky to be alive. In a statement yesterday, the Israeli prime minister told the people of Iran the time was coming soon for them to remove the regime and take back their country. So not sure what is going to happen with the future of Iran's government, but as of now, a new supreme leader is in place. We also know that the White House continues to evaluate energy options because the war with Iran has sent oil prices sky high, their highest level in 2 years. The Trump administration is trying to figure out how they can alleviate the impact on consumers, but we've seen the Iran war really disrupt the global oil trade. We saw oil prices fall sharply this morning, though, because President Trump predicted that the war could end, quote, soon. But as these strikes do continue, many Americans are facing the higher prices at the pump. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular unleaded is $3.54, up more than 60 cents from a month ago. So the White House is trying to figure out how they can rectify it. Maybe U.S. warships could escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. The White House is also floating whether or not it could lift oil sanctions on some countries. And there's also been talk of tapping into the United States strategic oil reserves. So not sure what they're ultimately going to decide. But at the end of the day, President Trump has said that it's something that his administration is looking into. I also want to let you guys know about some comments that have been made about Cuba, because we've been facing the Iran war now. Could tensions with Cuba be next? President Trump has renewed his threat of a friendly takeover of Cuba, saying it's facing a humanitarian crisis. Some analysts are warning fuel reserves there in Cuba could run out by the end of this month and bring the island to a standstill. The president says Cuba will make a deal with the U.S. on potential or face a potentially unfriendly takeover of its communist government. Trump has argued the country has depended on Venezuela for oil for decades, but that's run dry after American forces captured then leader Nicolas Maduro. The president's comments came after he suggested his administration would shift its focus back to Cuba once the military operation in Iran ends. Economic conditions in Cuba have deteriorated after the United States tightened its oil embargo. It's led to fuel shortages and daily power outages for those living in Cuba. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, though, has been negotiating with Cuba's leadership on the side to avoid military action. And supposedly, the two sides are close to closing in on an economic deal. But Democrats are really advocating for any intervention in the country to be done diplomatically and not through the U.S. military. The last month, the White House did ease a blockade of Venezuelan oil, allowing some private sector oil sales to Cuba. But as you know, the situation on the ground for many Cubans is just really dire as they face these fuel and food shortages. Coming up, we're going to get a check of your local weather forecast here in the metro Atlanta area. I've got Lauren Robinson standing by, so we're going to check in with her. Then after that, we're immediately going to talk about what we're seeing with the Epstein files, because there's another closed-door deposition happening today. I'm going to tell you who lawmakers are questioning coming up next. Welcome back in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad here with meteorologist Lauren Robinson. Lauren, I feel I walked outside and I had the picture of spring today. Birds were chirping, flowers are blooming, there's pollen on my car, but I know it's going to be somewhat short-lived considering the rude awakening we are in for with the temperature drop.
The temperature drop, and before that, we are looking at some storms overnight that could be pretty strong. So I guess that's good news for any sort of pollen sufferers because that'll wash our air in your car as we move through the overnight hours, but some of those storms are looking to be pretty strong. In the meantime, we will be pretty warm today. We're at 80 already in downtown Atlanta, 84 in Eatonton, 82 in Covington, 81 in Athens. Other areas in the upper 70s, those will rise into the low 80s as we go through the rest of the day. So it will be nice and warm. Yesterday we made it into the low 80s. We'll make it into the low 80s again today. Now we have a little bit of sunshine peeking through the cloud cover today. Earlier this morning it was quite gloomy. As we go through the rest of the afternoon, we're going to stay dry, but overnight is where we're going to see some strong weather push in. We're already starting to see alerts along this frontal boundary that's on its way towards us. Now here's the thing about it. These storms are most active in an unstable environment. That unstable environment is usually happening during your warmest hours of the day. So these storms that are pushing through areas like Arkansas into Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, it'll be pushing through during the warmest hours of the day. So that's where we're looking for the strongest storms. That same line will eventually make its way into North Georgia, but it'll happen after sunset once we've cooled down a bit. So we're not looking for any of the peak activity along this frontal boundary, but those storms could be strong. Now, the give and take with it is, the good news is, of course, you know, during the evening hours, we're not looking for as strong of storms as what we're going to see in states just to the west of us. But the not so good news is, if a strong storm pops up and it maybe gets a brief spin up tornado, you won't be able to see it because it'll be dark. So it's one of those nights where you really want to stay aware, stay weather aware, keep your apps on, keep your maybe TV on near you. If you really hear that that storm start to ramping up near your home, or you hear those winds gusting pretty strong, you want to turn on your TV. I think we have meteorologist Alex Forbes in later this evening, and he'll be with us. I'm not sure if Chief Meteorologist David Chanley will be here as well, but we will have options for you to stay safe. So that's the good news there. Now, as we go through the rest of our hour by hour forecast, these are the overnight hours where we're looking for those storms to push through. They're going to move into the far northwestern counties by around 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. They're going to start to push into metro Atlanta by around 3, 4, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. On the back end of that storm, because the front line is where we're going to see the strongest storms. On the back end of it, that's where we're going to see some lingering rain showers through our morning commute tomorrow. The good news here is it all moves out by noon, including the cloud cover. So we're going to get some afternoon sunshine tomorrow, but those temperatures will drop quite a bit. We're seeing those highs drop all the way into the upper 50s tomorrow. So we're going to go from above average today to below average tomorrow. As we move through the rest of the weekend, we get a lot of sunshine. Those temperatures will eventually start to rebound their way back into the middle 70s by the end of the weekend. But in the meantime, with these storms, the areas in yellow are level 2. That's where we're expecting the strongest storms this afternoon. As we move into North Georgia, we're at a level 1 category for severe storms. And what that really means is we're going to look for some periods of heavy rain. We're also going to look for very gusty winds, possibly damaging winds. We're going to look for some hail possibilities, and we are going to look for the possibility of a brief spin-up tornado. Now, again, this will be during the nighttime hours. So you're not going to be able to see what is coming towards you. So you really want to make sure that you're weather aware. You're listening out for strong gusty winds or maybe some strong storm activity overhead. You want to make sure you're listening for those things, or keep your TV on, maybe a weather alert on your phone. Now, as we go into this afternoon, ahead of those storms, temperatures in the low 80s, well above average for this time of year. Tonight, we're going to drop into the upper 40s, low 50s, some areas in the 60s. That's a wide array on that map there. But as we take a look at our next 7 days, temperature-wise, temperatures drop from the 80s today to the 50s tomorrow. We start to rebound through the weekend. A lot of sunshine Friday, Saturday, and most of Sunday. And then Sunday night into Monday morning, another front pushes in. That knocks our temperatures back down into the 50s for the start of the next work week. So a couple of roller coaster drops as we go through the next 7 days. But the thing that we're really keeping our eyes focused on will be those storms tonight.
Absolutely. Definitely a good thing to have the app on hand. Make sure that we stay weather aware in case anything were to pop up. Lauren, thanks so much for keeping us updated. And I guess we'll make the most of the temperatures now while I have them and before the storm rolls in. So thank you. All right, guys, let's switch gears because I told you we would get back to the Epstein files and talk about what's happening today. So let's go to some video here of what we are seeing unfold in Great Britain because the United Kingdom has published files related to the appointment of Jeffrey Epstein's friend Peter Mandelson. He served as ambassador to the United States. And those documents that were released by the United Kingdom today by the British government show officials believe there was a, quote, reputational risk to appointing Peter Mandelson as the United States ambassador because of his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Prime Minister Keir Starmer gave Mandelson the job anyway, only to fire him 9 months later when new details of his relationship with Epstein emerged. Keir Starmer, Britain's prime minister, is now really facing a political firestorm over the decision. And what we're seeing unfold now is the next steps of those files. I wanted to say outbreak, but that's not right. We're seeing the next steps of what these files are unleashing because those concerns were raised in a document sent to Starmer in December of 2024. And we've learned from the files that Keir Starmer was considering appointing Mandelson because they believed it was vital to appoint him as U.S. ambassador to establish a good relationship with the Trump administration. President Donald Trump was just coming in his second term. Advice to the Prime Minister from the head of the civil service actually summarized Mandelson's relationship with Epstein over 2 decades, noting that Mandelson, quote, reportedly stayed in Epstein's house while he was in jail in June 2009 for sexual offenses involving a minor. Mandelson is 72 years old, and he is a former cabinet minister, ambassador, and elder statesman of the governing Labour Party there in Great Britain, and was arrested at the end of February over allegations of misconduct in public office. He's been released without bail as police continue their investigation, and he's denied any wrongdoing and does not face any charges of sexual misconduct as of right now. So let's listen really quickly to what Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, Darren Jones, had to say about the first batch of documents released today.
So look, it's a big number of documents. Government takes its responsibility to be transparent to Parliament really seriously, and of course, on this issue of Peter Mandelson and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, we all have a shared interest in bringing some accountability and transparency to these issues. So the first tranche will be published this afternoon. A second tranche, though, will come later because there's been further work that we've had to do across government in response to the humble address, which is not quite ready. And we have 2 other processes that take a bit of time, given the live criminal investigation with the Metropolitan Police and the role of the Intelligence and Security Committee in Parliament that has some oversight of it.
When you say later, is this like a few days later, a few months later, or you have no idea?
The second tranche, I mean, it's probably in the weeks, but we're trying to get through it as quickly as possible. It just needs those approvals from the committee and from the Met Police before we can then come back to Parliament with them.
Makes sense.
So you were listening in to the Darren Jones give a little bit of information as to when more of these files are going to be released from the United Kingdom. And they go over some of the details of the friendship U.S. ambassador, or rather UK ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, had related to his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Some of you are asking here in our TikTok chat if this is happening today. Yes, these files were released today and more are coming. But let's bring it a little closer here to home in the United States. So while the United Kingdom is releasing its, quote, Epstein files, here's what we're seeing in the U.S. You're taking a look at video from when the Clintons testified before the House Oversight Committee. But today, the House Oversight Committee is questioning Jeffrey Epstein's longtime accountant and confidant. Richard Kahn worked closely with Epstein for more than a decade. He became the executor of Epstein's estate after his death, managing his finances and other renovations on Epstein's private Caribbean island. Now lawmakers are asking him questions in a closed-door deposition deposition. Epstein's lawyer, Darren Indike, is scheduled for questioning on March 19th. And if you're wondering why these two men, why Epstein's accountant and why his lawyer, it's because as lawmakers have questioned Epstein survivors and victims, they have honed in on both Khan and Indike as being critical cogs in Jeffrey Epstein's wheel, and basically his complex finance and other operations. So Representative James Comer of Kentucky, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, says that the question has a lot of panels for the accountant as to how Jeffrey Epstein was able to accumulate so much wealth. He says, quote, "It appears with the records we've obtained that there was somewhere around at least 64 entities affiliated with Epstein that we've discovered." Now, Khan has not been charged with any crimes. James Comer of Kentucky did say no one's accusing anyone of wrongdoing. And he says he has to say that because lawyers watch all of his interviews, and any misstatement would try to give leverage for others to get out of answering questions. So documents released in the lawsuits and among the Epstein files, millions of documents we've already seen from the Department of Justice, show a sophisticated and tangled web of business operations operated by Jeffrey Epstein, Richard Khan, and Indike. So these are the reasons why we're going to see more about this. We do know that Khan and Indike were subpoenaed in January, but their lawyer says in a statement that the allegations against them are false. We will continue to keep you updated. As we continue, we have a lot still to get to. We're going to check in with our Kevin Stewart here really quickly about a new changing of the guard, if you will, at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, on what a new CEO will mean for a great asset to our city. That's straight ahead. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much for being here at 2 o'clock. It is great to have you here streaming with us live. And I want to tell you, one of Georgia's leading assets is about to undergo a big leadership change. We're talking about Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Their longtime CEO is retiring, and the hospital's now named a new leader. So the big question is, what changes can we expect? Let's check in with our Kevin Stewart, who joins us live. Kevin, you sat down with both the incoming and outgoing leaders. What changes are in store?
Yeah, interesting conversation we had with Donna Highland. She has led this hospital system for 18 years, has been with the system 40 years. She started out at Home Depot and then came here and worked her way up through some big changes here through the system. And Dr. Patrick Frias has been named her successor. He actually worked here as the COO, I should say, working his way up through the ranks. And then he left to go to San Diego to run the Children's Hospital there. So he's coming back here as a homecoming, and lots of changes since he's left. We did talk to him about some of the things that he's done in San Diego that he'd like to bring here, and listen to what he had to say.
That's really important to me is mental health. That's really evolved and changed over the last decade. And one of the things I'm proud of here in San Diego is what we've been able to do to integrate mental health into primary care and make sure that we're meeting the mental health needs of the kids in the community as well. So we're taking care of the whole child, the physical, the mental, spiritual, all of it. Here we've been able to expand in San Diego the genomic medicine and how do you drive genomically informed care, I think is one of the next generations, if you will, of pediatric care is using genomics in order to pinpoint rare disease, but also to catch kids earlier before their illnesses or significant illnesses. So how do we look at genomic medicine and incorporate that into innovation as well?
Now, he says that he knows he has big shoes to fill, and his former boss, Donna Highland, as I noted, she's been here almost 20 years. She's watched over this system, not just with the new hospital, the blank hospital, but the consolidation of the children's hospitals in the area. Scottish Rite, Hugh Spalding, it's just an incredible situation. Scottish Rite bringing in the Marcus Autism Center, making a formal partnership with Emory University and its hospital as they partner, and that's something that she's really proud of. Take a listen.
And Scottish Rite came together, which has been amazingly successful for the families, for the children we serve, for the organization, for the state. And then Hugh Spalding is still part of the Grady system, but it's wholly managed by children. So we were able to align with Hugh Spalding, which has just been fabulous. And then the Marcus Autism Center was a few years later. And so to be really good at what you do, to be able to get the collection of experts that do it, you really need to get scale. I think about the impact on kids' lives. That's really the highlight, and getting to see so many children that their lives have been saved, and we have employees that were kids that were treated here at Children's. And when you meet those folks, that's what really is the highlight.
Yeah, she is really excited about the future under Dr. Frias, and she's excited about her retirement, but she still has some time. She's going to be on the job through the end of the year, tying up some loose ends and allowing the transition to take place where Dr. Frias ties up some loose ends on his end over in California before he takes over the hospital in the beginning of the new year. Ariel?
Such a bittersweet situation, Kevin. You know, it's wonderful to see a new incoming leader, and especially one that has ties to our city and served under Donna Highland of all. You know, it's crazy. I didn't realize that was the case. And it's wonderful to see that homecoming, like you mentioned. Also interesting to kind of hear a little bit about what she considers her legacy at Children's and what she was so excited for. So anything else that you think people, when we look at the situation, you know, we heard Dr. Frias talk a little bit about how he felt mental health care resources were so important for children and families. Do you expect, based on your conversation with him, to see more of those resources under his leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things when I asked him, what are some of the things that you'd like to see here? And he says, hey, in San Diego at Rady Children's Health Center, Children's Health Hospital, he says that they've really put an emphasis on mental health. And he said not that that's not already being done here, but that's something that he really wants to emphasize. He says that's really an important component in healthcare nowadays, and it definitely should be done with children. He's really proud of the work he's done out there in California and wants to bring that back here to Georgia.
Kevin, before I let you go, you've covered so many health-related stories over your career, and I'm curious, anything else from your conversation today that you found interesting, that you feel like the audience would enjoy? Anything else come to mind from your conversations with these two incredible leaders?
Yeah, one thing we did talk about, we didn't get too in the weeds on it, but we did discuss some of the challenges that all healthcare systems are dealing with these days, and that's Medicaid, insurance, the costs of doing business, healthcare, and he says, you know, they are working currently at his job in San Diego, and will continue to work on that here in Atlanta on how to keep costs down, how to adjust with the big beautiful bill and Medicaid reimbursements. He says it's a huge challenge, and that's top of mind for him, and that's something that he definitely wants to focus on here. Innovation. We talked about the mental health and genomics and other things like that, just keeping focused on just what's next, but also with the cost of health care, particularly with Medicaid.
It's a conversation so many families can relate to, Kevin. So interesting, and glad that you had that with them today. I know we'll get more from you this evening as we continue with this story. So Kevin, thanks so much for joining us live. Always appreciate the conversation. We're going to move on because I want to take you guys out to Georgia Tech. There's something really special happening today. An Inventure Prize State Finals. They're spotlighting student innovators who are trying to solve real-world challenges, from dementia detection to clean energy made from kudzu of all things. Our Chris Rosenthal joins us live because he is out there. Chris, when I was reading through the story, I got so excited because I feel like there's so much creativity from these student innovators. And kudzu energy, I mean, we have so much kudzu here in the South. It would be great for that to become an energy source. So Chris, we are having a little bit of issue hearing you. Hold on one second. We're going to make sure we have you routed in correctly, and we're going to make sure we have levels here. Let's just check it. I see us doing some troubleshooting over to the right. It looks like we are not having level. Well, I actually see some levels on your shot, Chris, here. So let's see if we can. He's continuing to talk. Let's see if we get him real quick. We may take a break and then come back to you, Chris. We'll see. We good, Chris, over here? No? Okay. Chris, hang out with us real quick. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back out to you live. Thanks for your patience. Stand by. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much for being here. We're going to get back out to our Chris Rosenthal, who joins us live. Chris, we can hear you. The little Wednesday ghost in the system seems to have been fixed. So tell us what these student innovators are doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about 100 projects here at Georgia Tech for this Inventure event, and right now the judges are in deliberating which projects. They got to get a little bit of a tour, talk to the students, see some of these projects like we were talking about earlier. I mean, all kinds of things from a lot of medical innovations, actually. I mean, there's a dementia detectors. I I saw a saliva detector for autoimmune diseases, all kinds of things. So, but I'm here with Danielle Larkin. She is with Georgia Tech, and flip the camera around here so we can see you and talk to you here. So, tell me a little bit about these students. Talk to me about just some of the innovations that you're seeing here.
Absolutely. So we have students from across Georgia. We have about 375 young inventors from Southwest Georgia, Metro Atlanta, Georgia Mountain Region, and Coastal Georgia. These students spend a year with their teacher creating novel solutions to problems that they found in the world, some global, some local. So the students have an opportunity to explore an idea and create a solution for it.
And what's at stake here? What do they get if they win? I know they're being judged right now, and pretty soon we're going to have the award ceremony here. We transitioned from, this room is full of presentations here just probably about a half an hour ago or so. But what's on the line for them?
Oh my goodness, the students have an opportunity to win lots of prizes. Now we know for the students their favorite prizes are tablets or maybe even the headphones depending on what category they win. But the students will also have an opportunity to work with a patent lawyer to become a patented idea. And most of the students will also have an opportunity to advance their inventions from our state level to the national level and be able to pitch again for bigger prizes at that level. But students have an opportunity to grow their idea from in their classroom to actually be a solution in the market.
I mean, these are K through 12 students that could have a patent. I didn't have a patent when I was at that age.
I'm still working to get one today, but absolutely. We have students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Most of our patents currently, we have awarded about 20 students with patents. But our first patent has been awarded to a 5th grade group, which has been amazing. You would think that a bird bath cleaner would have already been on the market, but they discovered that it wasn't, and they created the solution for it, and now there's a patent.
What are some of the inventions that have stood out to you?
Oh my goodness. One of my favorite ones is a CPR invention. It is actually to help chickens live a healthier life in their coops. So these students have found a solution that there wasn't a use for getting rid of their waste. There was an effective way, and they've developed a solution for that. Another one has been an anxiety gum. Now it isn't FDA approved yet, but it was an innovative technology that they have come up with in a gum to help people ease their anxiety. Thought those were really amazing inventions.
Amazing. And Laura Atico is here. She's won in the past. She's very impressive. She's the one who's done work with kudzu, and she's actually has some medical advancements with that she's working on with ALS. And I talked to her a little earlier. Let's listen into that sound there.
What I aim to do is take the material that I have created, which is called a supramolecular cell scaffold, and actually inject it into patients afflicted with this disease. This basically provides the support that the axons and motor neurons need to regrow and connect back to the skeletal muscle to allow people to have their mobility back again.
Wow, I mean, what's the future for this?
So right now I've had some grant money from a past competition. I'm working to get into a lab either at Georgia Tech or UGA and working with real human neural stem cells to get this out into the market.
It's pretty ambitious for 11th grade. Is that what people tell you?
Oftentimes, yes, but a lot of my friends also do research, so it's something that we all share together.
I mean, she's just in 11th grade. That's pretty impressive, huh?
Yes. Actually, she started with us in 8th grade. So she has been one that has taken kudzu and iterated time over time to create a new invention each year for K through 12 Invention Prize.
You and I were talking earlier about patents. This is a patent desert here. Talk to me about that.
Yes, so there are some patents here in Atlanta, but what we found through our work through K through 12 Invention Prize is that there aren't any patents outside of Metro Atlanta. So we're trying our best through K through 12 Invention Prize to introduce students and their families sooner about the invention process, so therefore we can eliminate the patent deserts, which means there's no patents outside of Metro Atlanta throughout Georgia.
And just real quick, we got coming up the presentations coming up here at 4 and or 4:30, right? We'll find out.
4.
Oh, it's at 4. Okay,
Yes,
so yeah,
4.
coming up right at 4. We'll find out who the big winners are on this stage shortly. So pretty exciting stuff.
Really exciting. I loved getting to meet both the educator and the student. And one thing the student said really struck me as remarkable, which was you asked her if she felt exceptional or if she just felt like she was doing some amazing work. And she downplayed it because she was like, oh, my friends are all researchers, so this is basically something that we do. And it just goes to show if you surround yourself with excellence and like-minded people, then striving for the universe is just par for the course because you're used to being excellent and operating at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is at that age. I mean, that's not what I was doing, me and my friends. But you know, that's what you surround yourself with the right people. I think she's got a bright future ahead of her.
I think she does too, Chris. I think she does. Well, thank you, Chris. We'll see you back here coming up at 4 o'clock, or rather 3 o'clock. And we will hopefully get an update as to who might win at 4. So Chris Rosenthal, thanks so much. As we continue here, you guys, I want to very briefly let you know, someone here on YouTube is asking if Scott Elementary got broken into. AJ, I think you're asking that. So as we gear up for Tom Haynes to come in, AJ, let me tell you what we know, because there was vandalism at Scott Elementary School. It happened this morning. Officers found shattered glass and damage to the school's front doors. They're trying to figure out the extent of the damage and whether or not anything was stolen. As we get any new information, we'll let you know. But just zoomed out, woo, like a boomerang, to bring in Tom. And so Tom, tell us, what are we looking at for 3 o'clock?
Ariel, got a lot still to come here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour on Fox Local. We're going to check in with Deidre Dukes. You know, President Trump in his State of the Union address, one bipartisan issue that the president and Democrat senators agree on is the fact that they don't want these huge corporations swooping into neighborhoods buying large tracts of homes. It's something that a lot of HOAs are confronting right now that don't have bylaws on the books preventing that. And so lawmakers and even the president are agreeing that something needs to be done. Not everybody agrees. They think free enterprise should dictate. But we're going to check in with Deidre Dukes because Senator Raphael Warnock held a sort of a call with reporters today on this very issue and the efforts of the federal government to push legislation through the United States Congress to sort of bar companies, big ones at least, from coming in and buying huge tracts of homes, which affect property values.
Absolutely.
All right, you and I want our houses to increase in value. A lot of people say when you have these big companies buying huge tracts of home, that has a huge effect.
Sure.
So we're going to check in with Deidre here in just a couple of minutes, plus our forecast and all things good here at 3 o'clock.
Awesome, Tom. Looking forward to it. You guys, thanks so much for being live with us. I'm Ariel Onstop. More to come.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here on Fox Local for the 3 p.m. streaming hour. I'm your host, Tom Haines, live with you in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom for the next hour. We got a lot of ground to cover. Want to get right out to Deidre Dukes with news from one of our own senators, Raphael Warnock. Deidre, joining many lawmakers who don't want these private equity firms to swoop into neighborhoods like the one behind you, buying up large tracts of home. President Trump spoke about it in his State of the Union address. So it's one issue that seems to have bipartisan support.
That's right, and that is something that Senator Warnock pointed out during our conversation today during that news conference he held with reporters this morning. He pointed out that this is a bipartisan effort, and also the fact that here in Metro Atlanta, we have one of the highest situations here in the country where you see these corporations, these private equity firms buying up large numbers of homes and then flipping those homes into rentals. And that really creates a problem for home buyers who are also competing against these corporations to purchase homes and finding that it's, in many instances, impossible to compete with them because these corporations are able to pay cash for these houses, and so they just continue to scoop them up, and then home buyers are left searching, unable to purchase these residences themselves. Well, we were told by Senator Warnock today that his proposal is part of the Road to Housing Act, and it would place new limits on mass-scale corporate purchases of residences. Now, any private equity firm already owning more than 350 homes would be barred from buying up more properties, and corporations that violate that ban would face hefty fines. Here's what he told us about that proposal.
There's no secret that we are in a housing crisis in our country. Folks on both sides of the aisle recognize it, and I'm glad that I was able to get my provision, which would ban private equities purchasing of massive amounts of housing in our state and across the country. I introduced legislation to address this earlier this year, and I was proud to lead the negotiation to ensure this private equity ban was included in the bipartisan housing package. I worked closely with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to get this across the finish line. Atlanta is ground zero for private equity's domination of the housing market, with more than 1 in 4 single-family rental homes owned by institutional investors. 1 in 4, that's a real problem. And it's the largest share in the country.
And we were told by Senator Warnock that the Senate is expected to vote on that act as part of his proposal, as part of that larger package, that larger piece of legislation tomorrow. And so we'll continue to follow this, and we'll let you know how that vote turns out, Tom.
The president signed an executive order back in January directing federal agencies to discourage the sale of homes to large institutional investors. So this process is already in the works. There is some pushback among Republicans who want the free market to reign. They don't want to intervene in what institutional investors can and cannot do, and they say that it's a matter of housing supply rather than restrictions on institutional buying. So I guess the big question is, as we heard from Senator Warnock, can this type of legislation supported by him, Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, and even all the way up to President Trump make its way through Congress? The senator sounded pretty confident that it can.
And supporters say that it's all about balance, right? Because they say there is a place in the market for these private equity firms, these corporations, as far as rental properties are concerned. At the same time, they say it's very important that home buyers also have a fair opportunity, I guess you could say, to be able to purchase a residence as well. They said, you know, it's the American dream. And right now, they say a lot of people just can't realize that dream because you do have so many of these homes being bought up by these large corporations, and that these private homeowners, home buyers, they just can't compete, Tom.
Well, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the main issues is that these corporations then turn those properties into rentals. And so now you have a neighborhood, instead of residents who live there and bought into that American dream, you have a community full of rental properties, transients coming in and out, either on a semi or annual basis. And that also is not good for property values.
That also is a valid concern that's been expressed by homeowners who, on the other end of this, they have purchased properties, and then, you know, due to a downturn in the economy, things of that nature, we do see kind of a transition where folks either lose homes, forced to sell homes, and then again, these houses are flipped by these large corporations into rental properties. Some of these companies that do own these properties, there's been the argument that they aren't as invested in these communities as far as upkeep of these properties, and so you have some of those issues as well. So there's just a lot that goes into this. It's a very complex issue, but as far as providing opportunities for home buyers, this is something that Senator Warnock hopes to address with this legislation.
Yeah, well, it's something that obviously has the attention of Congress, the president, and many homeowners associations who are putting in new bylaws restricting access to big companies, the ones that you referred to. Deidre Dukes live for us this afternoon. Deidre, thanks so much. The race to fill the seat vacated by Marjorie Taylor Greene up in Northwest Georgia is headed to a runoff. No surprise, there were a lot of candidates in that race. Neither candidate secured 50% plus one needed to win outright in Tuesday's special election. Retired Brigadier General Shawn Harris finished the night with 37% of the vote, holding a slight edge over Republican Clay Fuller. That's interesting because it is a largely Republican district, all right? It's MAGA country. Fuller had the endorsement of President Trump, too, and you remember the president was in Northwest Georgia not too long ago. Now both campaigns are eyeing the 12% of voters who cast ballots for the third place finisher, Colton Moore. While Harris says that he has bipartisan momentum, Georgia's historical trends often favor the GOP in a runoff turnout. Early voting begins on March the 30th ahead of the runoff election, which happens on April the 7th. Residents in the Castleberry Hills neighborhood are turning to high-tech reinforcements. Check it out. How'd you like to see one of those crawling through your neighborhood? These are robots designed to help fight against crime. The GE Lofts neighborhood is now deploying 2 robotic dogs to patrol the property after multiple break-ins and armed robberies. One robot scouts the perimeter while the other guards the interior gates, both monitored by a remote team ready to alert police. The technology comes from Atlanta-based Undaunted Robotics, which has deployed dozens of the machines across the city since last year. So we're seeing robotics used to fight crime, to surveil neighborhoods, and to assist in alerting authorities if a crime does occur. We're also seeing the robots all around certain neighborhoods delivering food, if you will. Some of them blink. Have you ever seen the ones that have the little eyes in front that blink? They're kind of cute. If you've ever been through the Georgia Tech or Midtown area, you see them all over the place. But now in this case, robotics are being used in the Castleberry Hills neighborhood to help fight crime. Homeowners say that the mechanical patrols are already working, recently scaring off an intruder before he could reach their front door. Anything that can help, right? New bike lanes popping up across Midtown Atlanta as part of a $5 million safety initiative dating back to 2019. The long-awaited protected lanes on Juniper Street are officially open, stretching from 14th Street all the way to Ponce de Leon Avenue. The project is repurposed driving lanes for parking planted trees, enhanced crosswalks to make the area safer for cyclists and pedestrians. However, the addition is drawing frustration from some drivers who say rush hour traffic in the area has become unbearable because they've sort of choked off part of that roadway. The addition is having transportation directors acknowledge that travel times may be slightly higher, but argue that the protected lanes actually make the streets safer for everyone on the road. Atlanta firefighters are turning up the heat on City Hall as they wait for a new contract. The firefighters union says it's frustrated that Mayor Andre Dickens has yet to sign a collective bargaining agreement with them, and they're pushing for critical changes. Let's get out to our Angelique Proctor at City Hall, who's covering this story for us today. Angelique?
Well, good afternoon to you, Tom. This is a major showdown between the firefighters union and the mayor of the city of Atlanta. I'm really kind of surprised to hear about this because I remember when the union so robustly endorsed Mayor Andre Dickens for his second term, and everybody seemed like they were on the same page, but clearly things have changed. The union tells us today that they ratified this agreement with the city 11 months ago, so back in April of 2025, and they say the city followed the agreement. The city followed that agreement for 6 months, then abruptly reneged back in October. The union says they have been quietly trying to get the city to go back to the negotiating table since that time, but they believe now that the mayor's office is simply ignoring them. Now, the union president has a position. Let's hear what it is now. The union president tells me, quote, "The city of Atlanta followed that agreement for several months, but when firefighters exercised their rights under the contract to address workplace issues, the fire chief suddenly claimed the agreement was not valid. Honoring agreements is fundamental to trust in any workplace, especially for firefighters." And so the first responders have found an ally in an Atlanta City Council member, a newly elected council member who was just sworn in on January the 5th, and that's Council Member Kelsey Bond. Take a listen. Why have you decided to agree with him on this?
Because, I'm a former union member myself, a lifelong public sector worker, and here in Georgia, workers don't have a lot of bargaining rights, especially public sector workers. And so for the firefighters to have bargained a contract in the first place is a historic achievement. They're the only public sector workers in Georgia that can bargain a contract. And so it's essential that we, allow them to fight for fair wages and better workplace conditions.
I think one of the big issues they want is to be paid twice a month.
Yes, that is one of the issues that was in their contract. A lot of workers these days are living paycheck to paycheck, and the city agreed on this contract initially, and it's our duty to abide by that and follow through on it.
11 months is a long time.
It's a really long time, and the union themselves are unclear on why the mayor hasn't signed the contract, and city council is not in the loop on that either.
And so nobody is sure why the mayor hasn't signed the contract. I've reached out to the mayor's office today. We expect to hear something back from them, but the union is taking a very serious stand on this, Tom. They are saying that if the city needs to sign this contract by Friday of this week, and if it is not signed, they have no other option but to exercise legal action. So certainly no one wants to see it get to that point. The next few days will be critical. Tom?
Angelique, I'm just reading as I'm listening to you here that it's the firefighters union first ever contract with the city. City Council recognizing the union's right to collective bargaining back in 21. First of all, is that correct? And secondly, could that possibly explain, why the mayor's office is taking a little bit longer to consider the demands here made by the firefighters? Or is the mayor's office simply not doing a good enough job in communicating with them, perhaps?
Well, Tom, I can tell you it is historic. This is the first time ever in the history of the city of Atlanta that a collective bargaining agreement has been put in place. The interesting thing about this, and I recall the mayor talking about, how contentious the negotiations were and that it got really heated, but they agreed. They agreed and ratified this collective bargaining agreement, and according to the union, followed it for 6 months. So it's certainly very curious now what is going on. I would not dare speculate. I am very anxious, though, to get the statement from Mayor Andre Dickens' office.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this process moves forward. Unions aren't a common thing here in our state. We live in a right-to-work state. However, in cities with populations like Atlanta, there are provisions for organizations like the Firefighters to unionize and to try to reach agreements with the city. So this is a process, a trailblazing process, if you will, for both sides, and we'll see how it all shakes out. Angelique Proctor live for us in downtown Atlanta this afternoon. Angelique, thanks so much. As we move on here, the Secret Service is investigating after a van crashed through barricades near the White House this morning. Take a look at the video here. Officials say that the driver was apprehended immediately after driving through the security barriers on the north side of the complex. If you've been to the Washington, D.C. area and around the White House, you know how fortified it is now. Streets used to be open in front of the White House for both vehicles and pedestrians, but that is no longer the case. So if you draw a city block line around the White House, those roadways are now completely shut down with this increase in security. No injuries reported in this case, but D.C. police and the Secret Service remain on the scene for investigation. Several roads in the area currently closed to traffic, drivers being urged to avoid the vicinity of the White House until further notice. It is a very congested area anyway. Nearly 2 weeks into the Operation Epic Fury, the United States and Israel continue to strike targets across Iran. As that conflict shifts to the sea, Iranian forces recently struck a Thai cargo ship in the Strait of Hormuz, forcing the crew to evacuate and effectively close traffic in that critical waterway. The president weighing in on this, saying if Iran has put out any mines in Hormuz, we have no reports of them doing so, we will want them removed immediately. That according to the president. U.S. forces responded by striking more than a dozen Iranian vessels following reports the regime was preparing to lay mines in the strait. Defense officials say that they have hit more than 5,000 targets inside Iran, significantly dropping the frequency of ballistic missile and drone attacks in that area. The president is renewing his call for what they are calling a friendly takeover of Cuba. That is here in our hemisphere. Okay, first we launched operations in Venezuela, removing Nicolas Maduro. Now that effort might move to Cuba as the island nation faces mounting humanitarian crises. You know, a lot of the funding for Cuba came from Venezuela. They paid Cuba a lot of money for security forces inside Venezuela, and now that is all but dried up as the CIA and other military forces protect that country and its president, Delcy Rodriguez, now. Analysts warn that the country's fuel reserves could run out by the end of the month, potentially bringing the entire island to a standstill. The president argues Cuba is in deep trouble now that aid from Venezuela has dried up following the capture of Maduro. The White House has tightened its oil embargo, leading to massive power outages and economic deterioration across the country. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly negotiating with Cuban leadership to find out what is next in that country. The British government is releasing more documents as it pertains to Jeffrey Epstein and the appointment of Peter Mandelson as the British ambassador to the United States. Documents show officials warned the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer of a, quote, reputational risk if he went ahead and appointed Mandelson to the United States role in light of his alleged relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The memo revealed Mandelson reportedly stayed at Epstein's home in 2009 while the financier was serving time for crimes involving a minor. Let's listen to the British Chief of Secretary to the Prime Minister.
So look, it's a big number of documents. Government takes its responsibility to be transparent to Parliament really seriously, and of course, on this issue of Peter Mandelson and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, we all have a shared interest in bringing some accountability and transparency to these issues. So the first tranche will be published this afternoon. A second tranche, though, will come later because there's been further work that we've had to do across government in response to the humble address, which is not quite ready. And we have two other processes that take a bit of time, given the live criminal investigation with the Metropolitan Police and the role of the Intelligence and Security Committee in Parliament that has some oversight of it.
When you say later, is this like a few days later, a few months later, or you have no idea?
The second tranche, I mean, it's probably in the weeks, but we're trying to get through it as quickly as possible. It just needs those approvals from the committee and from the Met Police before we can then come back to Parliament with them.
Makes sense.
Meantime, a key figure in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation is on Capitol Hill today, facing some tough questions from the House Oversight Committee. We're talking about Richard Kahn. He is Epstein's longtime accountant and estate executor. He's sitting for a closed-door deposition as lawmakers probe how the convicted sex trafficker amassed his fortune. Chairman James Comer says that the panel has discovered at least 64 different entities tied to Epstein, describing a sophisticated web of businesses used to manage his finances. Kahn's testimony follows a recent deposition from former President Bill Clinton, who denied having any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Survivors have long claimed Kahn was a critical cog in Epstein's operations, though his attorneys strenuously deny he ever witnessed or facilitated any abuse. This is the first of two planned depositions for estate executors, with lawyer Darren Inke scheduled to testify next week. As we continue now, we have some severe weather possibly on the way, rolling in tonight in parts of North Georgia. Meteorologist Lauren Robinson is standing by to talk about the rest of our Wednesday forecast and the timing as to when these storms are going to roll through overnight as we continue. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haynes with meteorologist Lauren Robinson, talking all things weather. Lauren, it's a beautiful day out there now. We seem to be getting really nice days, and then these storms kind of creep in overnight, and tonight is going to be no exception.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, the good news with storms that push through overnight is they're not quite as severe because we're not in our max heating for the day. The not so good news is you can't see them coming when they're coming during the nighttime. So let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions. Right now, we're at 80 degrees in downtown Atlanta. Some areas have already risen into the middle 80s. 86 degrees right now in Eatonton, 83 in Athens, 82 in Covington. Other areas still in the 70s are likely to make it into the upper 80s, which is well above average for this time of year. Our typical highs this time of year are in the middle 60s. So we've been well above average, near record breaking as we go through the rest of this afternoon. But let's take a look at our live Viper radar. We have that line of storms just off to the west, the blue squares there. That is the same line that's going to push its way into North Georgia overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. That's also the same line that's going to wreak a lot of havoc in some states just west of us, where you're seeing the reds into Louisiana and then southern portions of Ohio and into Kentucky there. That's going to be already existing severe weather and even tornado alerts there. As that line pushes through other areas like Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, that line is going to become pretty strong. Those areas are going to see the strongs during the warmest parts of the day, which means the storms are going to be at their peak potential with an unstable environment. As the storms move into North Georgia, it'll be during the overnight hours where our atmosphere is going to be a bit more stable. So these storms could be still pretty strong, but they're not looking to be as strong as what our neighbors to the west will be seeing. Now, as we go through our hour by hour forecast, here's that line of storms. It'll move into the far northwestern counties by around 10, 11, midnight tonight, and it'll push through metro Atlanta by around 3, 4, 5 o'clock. The leading edge of the storm will be the strongest. That's where we're going to look for the possibility for some spin-up tornadoes, some gusty winds, the heaviest downpours. On the back end of this, we're going to see some lingering rain showers through our morning commute tomorrow morning. The good news with this line is it moves through quickly. The storms push through overnight and into tomorrow morning. They're gone by tomorrow afternoon. Cloud cover follows closely behind it. So we'll end up with some afternoon sunshine tomorrow, but it's going to feel much colder with temperatures peaking in the upper 50s. So we're going to go from low 80s today to middle 50s tomorrow. Through the rest of the weekend, we'll continue to see sunshine. Those temperatures will start to climb a little bit each day over the weekend before knocking back down for the start of the next work week. But as far as today's storms are concerned, the areas off just to the west, that's where we're going to see the strongest storms. Those areas are under a level 2 out of 5 for severe weather. As we move into North Georgia, we're at a level 1. Again, that's because the line will come during the cooler hours of the night, during the overnight hours. It'll lose some of its strength as it pushes through North Georgia, so that's why we're in a level 1 versus a level 2. The impacts will still be those gusty winds. We're looking for possibility of hail, maybe a spin-up tornado, and of course those locally heavy downpours that could lead to some localized flooding. Now, the good with the bad is with the overnight hours, the good thing is the storms won't be as strong as what they would be if it was the afternoon. The bad news is when they come through in the dark, you can't see them coming. And that's especially risky when it comes to the possibility for a brief spin-up tornado because you can't see what's making its way towards you. So what I advise is through the rest of the evening and early tomorrow morning, stay weather aware. How do you do that? You keep your apps on your phone. You maybe even keep your TV on because we will be cutting into programming if things become too severe. So you want to make sure that you're on Fox Local, maybe Fox 5, maybe keep your Fox Local app open just so you can make sure what's going on around you, especially if you wake up and you hear those winds really ripping or you hear some strong storms overhead. Now, in the meantime, before all of that comes, temperatures in the low 80s today, and then overnight, we're going to see those lows fall quite a bit. Over the next few days, we're going to see temperatures take a couple of drops. The first drop will be tomorrow. After that storm passes, it's going to leave some cold air on the back end of it. Over the weekend, we get a lot of sunshine. We start to stair-step our way a little warmer each day. Then Sunday night into Monday, another system comes through. It brings another night of storms and drops our temperatures in the 50s again as we move into the next work week. So we have a couple of lines that'll knock us down each time we try to climb back up.
And obviously it's Wednesday. People looking ahead to the weekend. Our pick is Saturday. Is Sunday? I see some cloudiness and storms there. Is that going to kind of mess up the entire day, or are those just going to roll through? Timing wise, what are we looking at on Sunday?
So Sunday is looking to be Sunday night into Monday morning.
Okay.
So Sunday evening, we could see some storms with some lingering showers through early Monday morning. And then on the back end of that, colder weather settles in again. So for your weekend, most of the weekend is looking nice and clear.
Mhm.
We're going to be middle 60s Friday, which isn't quite as warm as what we're seeing Saturday.
Right.
But Friday is actually seasonal. That's
Yeah.
actually where we should be this time of year.
Looks
And
like a
then
nice
we
day.
Yeah, then we go back to above average on Saturday. So Friday will be nice. Saturday will be extra nice. Sunday will be nice-ish, depending on what time you're there, what time you're outside, because again, we are looking for our next line to push through late day Sunday into Monday morning.
I feel like a good portion of the country has seen these storms rolling through. Are these sort of the same systems that are sweeping across parts of the Midwest, wreaking all that havoc?
Yeah.
Death and destruction, literally?
Yes, it's all coming from the same kind of strong low pressure systems and
Mhm.
what side of the cold and warm fronts you're on.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all, linked together.
They just kind of gas out by the time they get to us. Maybe they kind of rain themselves out, or we're too
Yes.
far south maybe to get the brunt of what these storms are bringing.
That, and with the timing, it just hits us at nighttime.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
these same storms were to hit us in the middle of the afternoon,
Might be a
then they
different
would be a
story,
lot
right?
stronger. So we're just kind of falling in a lucky placement where by the time they get to us, they have already lost a lot of their energy, and we don't have an atmosphere that's conducive to the strongest storms if it's in the middle of
Yeah,
the
these
night.
spring storms can be vicious. Lauren, thanks. Speaking of, take a look at this violent, severe weather that Lauren and I were just talking about, ripping through parts of the Midwest, leaving devastation and death in its wake. 2 people dead, dozens more injured. The fatalities reported in Newton County, Indiana, where an elderly couple was killed after a powerful tornado destroyed their home. Meantime, in Illinois, a monstrous storm, a supercell, what is being characterized as, dropped grapefruit-sized hail and produced a tornado that decimated homes there. Meteorologists say one hailstone measured 6 inches in diameter, which could set a new state record for Illinois. Thousands of residents remained without power this morning as utility crews struggle to clear down lines, debris from the roads. This latest round of storms come just days after another storm system killed 8 people across the region. That is a storm that we covered here yesterday during the 3 p.m. streaming hour. Danger not over as the system moves east, threatening nearly 70 million Americans with possibly more severe weather on the way. YouTube is rolling out what the company is characterizing as some new defenses to protect public figures from growing threats of AI deepfakes. The video sharing giant announced the expansion of its free likeness detection tool to a pilot group of government officials, journalists, and political candidates. The technology scans videos for AI-generated clones of a person's voice or a face. If a match is found, the individual can request the content be removed from the platform. YouTube clarifies that the detection does not mean automatic deletion. That was something I was wondering. So if YouTube picks up on something like this, the red flag doesn't necessarily mean that something goes to the company and then the company takes the video down. You have to initiate that process with YouTube. And if they verify that it indeed is an AI deepfake, they will precipitate the process of taking it down. Participants must verify their identity to enroll in the program, which comes as deepfakes become increasingly convincing during the election cycle. I feel like on a lot of social media platforms, you can't tell anymore what's real and what's not. And they're not only using humans, they're doing animal reels and all kinds of things that turn out to be fake. I mean, it's entertaining to watch, but it turns out it's not real. So this is sort of uncharted territory as we continue with AI and this spread of AI deep fakes across many social media platforms. We got a lot more still ahead to talk about. We'll continue right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for streaming with us here in the 3 p.m. hour. I'm Tom Haynes, live with you here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. Appreciate you streaming on your mobile device if you're on our Fox Local app, or if you're at home watching through one of your live providers. We're certainly glad you're with us here today too, or on one of our streaming sites. That's YouTube, TikTok, wherever you are, or on the radio, 107.9 HD2 FM. We're glad you're listening to us today. Residents in Social Circle are fighting back against sky-high water bills, including one man facing a $1,200 charge. Many elderly neighbors on a fixed income are wondering what's going on. They say they simply can't afford these sudden increases. Let's get out to Annie Mapp, who's live with the outcry from that community. Annie, what's going on here?
Tom, good afternoon. I'm here in Social Circle at the City Hall. I've spent all day speaking to residents, some of them who are on fixed incomes and who share that their last bill for the month of February is nearly double what they paid at the same time last year. Like you mentioned, one resident says he got a bill of about $1,200. Another resident explains he went from paying $188 last February to now paying over $400 last month. So we've been trying to get answers from city officials on what exactly is going on. The city manager here of Social Circle says they haven't increased their rates at all, but he says that these charges come from the he says it comes from the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia. He says the agency sent them a notice explaining that there would be some increases due to those severe weather events that we had back in January. It appears that the authority raised their rates to $1.88 per therm for residents here in Social Circle. One man I spoke to earlier tells me before that he was paying about $1. About $1 was his rate per therm before receiving last month's bill. So there are a lot of concerns. Take a listen to what one resident I spoke to said.
We need to have some type of notification of an increase. That way we can budget. I mean, we're on a budget, and we need a budget for the increase if that's the case. But you can't do it with no notification, and you really can't do it with one. They had to be notified ahead of time. They do their contracts year to year, so they had to know that there was going to be an increase.
Now, the gas authority did tell Social Circle officials that this is not a permanent rate increase. That, again, this was due to that severe weather that we saw back in January. But residents I spoke to say they are just concerned and fearful that they won't be able to pay that bill for the month of February. I did speak to the city manager. He says they are willing to work with residents who may be facing some financial challenges to be able to make that payment. So there is that option for them, Tom.
Annie, it seems like, a problem that's just so frustrating. Frustrating to you and me. Frustrating for a person who's really adept at solving problems quickly. But for people who are elderly, and it takes them a little more time to reconcile and deal with issues like this, calling the water company, straightening it out, fighting to find out why your bill is so high in the first place. I can see and I can understand how challenging it is for them. Is this process at all being simplified for people like that, or is an explanation being even given to them?
Well, the City of Social Circle itself did put a post up on Facebook about 5 days ago, giving residents some comments, because they say they too were receiving a lot of messages and calls with people who were concerned and who were trying to figure out why the bill was so high. But the residents I spoke to say they didn't receive any prior notice that this was going to be a possibility. I mean, they knew it would be a little bit higher due to the severe weather and obviously using a little bit more heat and warm water, but they didn't imagine that it would nearly double in price, like what we saw for this one resident we spoke to, whose bill went from being about $188 in February of 2025 to over $400 last month. So they feel like they need some more communication, not only from city officials, but also from the gas authority.
Well, it's really frustrating, especially when you don't know why your bill is going up. I mean, everybody's paying their utilities, but it's like you get one that's double the price of what it should be, and you're like, what the heck's going on? First of all, I can't afford it. Secondly, why? So you can definitely understand the frustration among residents there in Social Circle, and it's a worthy issue to bring up. Annie Mapp live for us in Social Circle this afternoon. Annie, thanks. Moving on now, a local elementary school launching a brand new mission, and a noble one at that, making sure no student goes hungry over the weekend. Stripling Elementary in Norcross celebrating the grand opening of its Red Rocket Market. What's that all about? Here's Eli Jordan.
That's right, I'm at Stripling Elementary in Norcross, a pre-K through 5th grade school. About 800 students? About 800 students out here. They're providing a food pantry for kids who go home on the weekends that might be hungry. And joining me right now is Stripling Elementary Principal, Dr. Molly McAuliffe. Hey, Miss Molly McAuliffe, how you doing?
Hello. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having us. Tell me, what are you guys doing here and why the need?
So we are so excited. Today is the grand opening of the Red Rocket Market for Stripling Elementary School families. And this is an opportunity for us to provide food bags for families who may be facing food insecurity over the weekends. We've identified 25 initial families to receive these donations, and we're going to send home the bags every weekend for them with enough food and grocery products and hopefully fresh produce to make a fresh meal at home over the weekend.
So how do you determine what kids are in need and why over the weekend?
Sure. So during the school day, we know our kids get breakfast and lunch, and we are able to make sure that no kid goes hungry during the school day. However, at Stripling Elementary School, we have 800 kids, and 85% of our students do qualify for free or reduced price lunch. So we know we have a need in our community, and so we've worked with our counseling team and our school social worker to identify the initial 25 families who would benefit from this.
So this is all donated, no taxpayer funding or anything like that?
That's right. These are donations. We had an organization of women who call themselves the Giving Circle, and they identified Stripling Elementary as a possible donor site, and we were able to use their generosity to open the Red Rocket Market. And the food that you see here was either purchased with their initial donation or has been donated from other community partners who are working with us to make sure we can provide this for our families.
So you guys are also working with Helping Hands.
Yes.
And other, I guess nonprofits that'll help you guys out with this. But I guess with 85% of your students qualifying for reduced or free lunches, you guys are anticipating this to grow.
This could
servicing more people.
potentially grow, correct. And that is one of our goals, is to make sure that no kid goes hungry over the weekend. We want to remove as many barriers as possible so that they come in to school on Mondays ready to learn and are able to, exceed any type of growth measure for students academically. And so what families can do if they are not part of the initial 25 that have been identified, but they feel that they would benefit from this, they can contact our school counselors, and we'll make sure that we work with them, that as the pantry expands, they get added to that list.
And what if I wanted to donate?
If someone in the community wants to donate, we would welcome that partnership. They can go to the Stripling Elementary School website to contact our school counseling team, or call our main number, and we will get them in touch with our school counselors in order to make that donation possible.
And you guys have gone, full on with, you got the refrigerator and you got the freezer going on. So, eventually you guys will be able to store those perishables for a lot longer than you have been able to.
Exactly. Our fifth graders have been focused on reducing food waste in the cafeteria, and we've had a share table for a couple years now where a kid, if they don't want to finish their chips, for example, they might leave those on the share table and another student could pick it up and use it for snack later. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to hang on to the perishable items, things like milk or juice or apple slices. Those have to be thrown away. And our fifth graders were like, this is a problem. We should not be throwing food away. So this Red Rocket Market donation, now that we have the refrigerator and a freezer, we're going to be able to hang on to those perishable items and make sure that they get redistributed to students who need them.
And again, if anybody wants any more information on either way, needing or wanting to donate, just contact the school.
Absolutely. We would welcome it, and we really appreciate our community partnerships.
Awesome. Red Rocket Market just opened here at Stripling Elementary, helping kids out over the weekends, if they're experiencing food scarcity. Back to you guys.
All right. What a awesome initiative, a noble one, and one that is seemingly necessary in that area. Eli Jordan, thanks. A lot more to come when we come back. We're going to check in with Chris Rosenthal, who's at Georgia Tech, talking with student innovators as we continue. Welcome back, everybody. So happy you're here for the 3 p.m. stream. I'm Tom Haynes, live with you in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom as we make our way through a lot of the stories making headlines today, a lot of the cool things going on here in our community. One of them, student innovators taking over Georgia Tech today for the 12th annual Inventor Prize State Finals. Talking about competitors featuring groundbreaking projects from K through 12 students. Our Chris Rosenthal is there. Chris, looks like a busy place behind you there.
It is a busy place. They're all in anticipation to find out who has won these prizes here for the state final. These students, I'll just kind of pan around. They have been here all day showing off their inventions. About 100 or so inventions and about 300 or so students, and they're getting ready to come inside for the ceremony to find out who has won. And these are really, really sophisticated inventions. I mean, I'm talking dementia detectors and language translating bracelets and a lot of healthcare innovations and inventions. And I'm going to come inside here where it's a little bit more quiet and talk with Danielle Larkin. She is with Georgia Tech. She is part of this program. And tell me, first of all, just talk to me about some of the inventions that we're seeing this year.
Absolutely. So we have seen lots of inventions from medical down to agriculture. So some of the things that you'll see today has to deal with students that have taken kudzu, a very invasive plant across Georgia, turning that into a usable product that has now gone from a bioplastic down to medical transformations. That is awesome. And another one has to stem around chickens. So we have an invention that is going to help chicken keepers ensure that those coops stay clean.
It's a wide range of things. A lot of medical.
Yes, a lot of medical. We've had a dementia bracelet that helps detect that. We have a gum that helps with anxiety. Students' innovation and thought process is just blowing my mind away today.
Yeah, I saw another student I was talking to earlier. He had a saliva detection for autoimmune diseases. I mean, of course, you got to go through FDA and all those things, but this is just it's pretty sophisticated what they're coming up with.
Absolutely, and autoimmune diseases often sneak up on people. So if you can detect that through saliva, what a quick intervention that is.
And if a student could figure that out, that's really cool. And they're about to find out, who has won here. The judges have judged, and they're about to find out what are some of the prizes here.
Oh, some of the prizes range from computers or tablets for students, but the most sought out one is the opportunity to work with a patent attorney to have their ideas patented. And if a student is able to get a patent for their invention, that is helpful for them. Anyone that uses anything similar to their products, they will be able to continue to be a part of that invention as well. So that gives students lifelong sustainability for their inventions.
You have some students that have been here a few times. You have one that's kind of a star, Laura. Tell me a little bit about her.
Laura started with us as an 8th grader, and now she is an 11th grader. And she was the first to take kudzu and change it into a usable product. Her first invention with us stemmed around a bioplastic paper that you could use, and now she has taken that, iterated that process, and now she's using it to discover medical uses for kudzu. And that's great.
Yeah, and I talked to her a little bit earlier, and we have some sound from her, but I talked to her earlier. She's using kudzu now. Next step further, trying to work on, curing and treating ALS. Let's take a listen.
What I aim to do is take the material that I have created, which is called a supramolecular cell scaffold, and actually inject it into patients afflicted with this disease. This basically provides the support that the axons and motor neurons need to regrow and connect back to the skeletal muscle to allow people to have their mobility back again.
Wow, I mean, what's the future for this?
So right now I've had some grant money from a past competition. I'm working to get into a lab either at Georgia Tech or UGA and working with real human neural stem cells to get this out into the market.
It's pretty ambitious for 11th grade. Is that what people tell you?
Oftentimes, yes, but a lot of my friends also do research, so it's something that we all share together.
Yeah, I don't know if I was doing projects like that in 11th grade, but, Why is this so important, especially with these patents?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So there are patents in Georgia, but they are centered around Metro Atlanta. What we found through our work is that there are innovation deserts outside of Metro Atlanta. And an innovation desert just simply means that there are no patents outside of Metro Atlanta. So the sooner that we can get the invention process into the lives and into the minds of students, we can change the fact that Georgia has innovation deserts outside of Metro Atlanta.
That's impressive. And a bright future for them. I mean, you've had some students, you've been doing this 12 years, you've had some students who've kind of gone on to bigger things, huh?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Through this program, we've had an opportunity to award about 20 students with patents. If you use a biodegradable straw that is not paper, that came from an invention from a K-12 Invention Prize students. And for those of you that have had babies and you use a pacifier weaner, that also was a K-12 Invention Prize invention. So our students think about these opportunities based on their lives, and then they make changes for the rest of the lives of other people.
That's wonderful. Danielle, thanks for joining us. This room is about to be full with that crowd we saw outside, just in anticipation of finding out who some of the winners are, who might get those patents.
What an incredible initiative, Chris, by Georgia Tech. What an incredible opportunity for these students who are part of this innovation process. It's really inspiring for them to be able to, submit, hope, and then work on innovations that will most certainly take hold in the future. All happening at Georgia Tech this afternoon, and we are there to cover it. So cool. Chris Rosenthal, thanks so much. And thank you for joining us for the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Don't go anywhere. The news continues right here, right now.